From beneath the shifting sands of Egypt to the mist-shrouded peaks of the Andes, the ancient world whispers secrets that defy time. We are haunted by the echoes of forgotten empires, civilizations that seemingly vanished at the height of their power, leaving behind silent stone cities and legends of cataclysm. What sudden force erased the advanced Minoan civilization? Where did the entire population of the Indus Valley disappear to? These are more than historical questions. They are the epic mysteries that blur the line between myth and reality. We search the shadows of ruins for answers, drawn to the chilling possibility that our past is infinitely grander and stranger than we have ever dared to imagine. Deep beneath the Aegean Sea, between Crete and the Peloponnese, lies a shipwreck that has slept for over 2,000 years, a ghost from the ancient world, carrying treasures, statues, and a secret that defies time. When divers first found it, they didn't realize they were uncovering a discovery that would challenge everything we know about history. Hidden among the ruins was not gold or jewels, but a bronze machine, precise, complex, and far beyond its age. This is the story of the Antikythera shipwreck and its impossible creation, a 2,000-year-old device so advanced that scientists would later call it the world's first computer. How could the ancients have built something the modern world can barely comprehend? Could ancient civilizations have possessed technology far beyond what history tells us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to read your theories. It all began in 1900 when a group of Greek sponge divers were exploring the Aegean Sea. During one deep dive, about 50 meters below the surface, a diver named Elias Stadiatos glimpsed an unbelievable sight under the dim blue light. Bronze statues of humans covered in algae scattered across the sea floor. When he resurfaced, gasping from the pressure, his first words were, "There's a cemetery of statues down there." No one knew that this chance encounter would lead to one of the earliest and most significant underwater excavations in archaeological history. Over the following years, with the help of the Greek Navy divers and archaeologists, recovered hundreds of artifacts from the wreck: magnificent bronze statues, heads of Zeus and Heracles, marble figures, ceramics, jewelry, and even human remains. Studies revealed that it was an ancient Greek merchant ship, dating to around the 1st century BCE, sailing from Rhodes or Pergamon to Rome, likely carrying luxurious artworks as gifts for a Roman official. Yet among the corroded ruins, they found a small lump of bronze, seemingly a fragment of some mechanical device. Few paid attention at first, until over 50 years later, scientists discovered it was no ordinary piece of metal. It was the heart of a machine far ahead of its time. When scientists first placed the corroded lump of bronze under X-ray and CT scanners in the late 20th century, what they saw defied belief. Beneath the crust of marine deposits appeared a network of interlocking gears, perfectly cut-aligned and engineered with a precision unheard of in the ancient world. As layer after layer was revealed, they identified 37 gears, each crafted to an accuracy of mere fractions of a millimeter. Around them, faint Greek inscriptions described celestial movements and mathematical cycles. It was a revelation this was not a random artifact, but a mechanical model of the cosmos. When digitally reconstructed, the device proved capable of predicting solar and lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, and even the timing of ancient Olympic Games. 2,000 years before the first European clock, someone had built a machine that mirrored the heavens, a creation so advanced it forced history itself to be questioned. To grasp how extraordinary this construction was, imagine each gear being cut with precision, finer than half a millimeter, perfectly interlocking along tiny shafts. The gear ratios represented the 19-year Metonic cycle of the Moon, the 223-month Saros cycle, and the 76-year Calippic cycle. all astronomical calculations requiring advanced mathematical knowledge. One face displayed a lunar calendar with changing phases of the moon, while the reverse showed a complex time map predicting Olympic events, all powered by a single bronze hand crank. What's astonishing is that nothing comparable existed in the ancient world. Before this discovery, historians believed that intricate gear systems only appeared in the 14th century with medieval European clockwork. The Antikythera mechanism overturned that belief entirely. It proved that the ancient Greeks possessed a mastery of precision engineering over 500 years ahead of their time. Its gears, axles, and inscriptions reflected a deep understanding of geometry, celestial mechanics, and mathematical modeling achievements only found in the most advanced civilizations. The question of who built the Antikythera mechanism remains one of archaeology's greatest enigmas. Some historians point to Archimedes of Syracuse, the legendary inventor whose writings describe devices that could model the movements of celestial bodies, suggesting that this machine may have been based on his lost designs. Others credit the school of Hipparchus, the brilliant astronomer who first calculated the moon's irregular orbit and might have provided the mathematical foundation behind the gear ratios. A third theory traces its origin to Alexandria, the scientific capital of the Hellenistic world, where mathematicians, engineers, and philosophers once collaborated under the light of the Great Library. Yet despite these possibilities, not a single ancient manuscript mentions such a device, nor has any similar mechanism ever been found. The Antikythera mechanism stands utterly alone, a technological orphan, without a lineage or successor, a reminder that somewhere in the distant past, a spark of genius briefly illuminated the world, only to vanish without explanation. The deeper scientists examined the Antikythera mechanism, the more it defied all logic. How could artisans from over 2,000 years ago cut gears so minuscule and precise without lathes, micrometers, or modern machining tools? Each tooth of every gear was shaped with almost mathematical perfection, aligned so smoothly that it rivaled the craftsmanship of 18th century clockmakers. Even the inscription's faint Greek letters etched along the bronze plates are so small and intricate that modern researchers require electron microscopes to read them, though magnifying lenses were unknown in antiquity. The materials, too, tell a story. The alloy composition, the measured symmetry, and the deliberate ratios reveal not crude experimentation, but an advanced, disciplined tradition of engineering. Many scholars now believe the device could not have been an isolated miracle. It bears the mark of refinement, the kind that emerges only after generations of accumulated knowledge. Perhaps it was the last creation of a forgotten school of mechanics, wiped out as wars, fires, and the fall of empires consumed the libraries that once safeguarded their secrets. If so, the mechanism is not just a machine. It is the final heartbeat of a lost technological civilization, preserved by the sea, until the modern world was finally ready to notice its genius. Since 2012, new excavations using robotic submersibles and 3D sonar mapping have revealed even more pottery bronze statues and human bones, possibly from the ship's crew. Some portions of the wreck remain buried in sand, leading experts to believe that more fragments of the Antikythera mechanism still lie hidden below. Each year, new imaging techniques are used to see through the encrusted rock, hoping to uncover the missing planetary dials or original design blueprints. What makes this device impossible isn't just its mechanics, it's the mindset behind it. It was not a toy nor a ritual object. It was a miniature cosmos, built on the belief that humans could understand and replicate the workings of the universe through reason and mathematics. This was the seed of modern science, carved into bronze over 2,000 years ago, a kind of intellectual DNA that we once thought belonged only to the age of Galileo or Newton. Like many great stories, it vanished without a trace. No one copied it, no one recorded its secrets. Perhaps war disaster or time itself erased its knowledge. Centuries later, humanity had to start over, rebuilding gears, clocks, and machines from nothing. Today, the Antikythera mechanism in Athens stands not just as an artifact, but as a challenge proof that ancient minds once reached astonishing heights. Its corroded gears still turn not for the sun or moon, but for the spirit of human curiosity. Somewhere beneath the waves, its missing pieces may still rest, waiting to remind us that history's greatest genius might have come far earlier than we think. Buried beneath centuries of earth and silence, a strange bronze helmet emerged from the soil of the Balkans, its surface still gleaming faintly after nearly 3,000 years. To archaeologists, it wasn't just another relic of war, but a message from a forgotten world, the ancient Greco-Illyrian helmet. Born at the crossroads of Greek and Illyrian civilizations, it carried within its metal the story of an era where battle ritual and craftsmanship fused into one. Perfectly shaped from a single sheet of bronze, it defied the limits of ancient technology, a silent testament to a people whose knowledge of fire and metal may have rivaled even our own. If ancient metallurgy was truly this advanced, do you think we might be underestimating the intelligence of ancient people? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Historians once believed this helmet originated in the Peloponnese around the 8th century BC and later spread north through warfare and trade. But as more similar finds appeared in Albania, Montenegro, and Croatia, lands of the ancient Illyrians, the story grew uncertain. Who truly created the design? The Greeks famed for philosophy and art, or the Illyrians, fierce mountain warriors of the Balkans? To this day, no answer is definitive. At first glance, the Greco-Illyrian helmet seems plain less ornate than the Corinthian helmets of Greek hoplites, lacking mythic engravings or elaborate crests. Yet closer inspection reveals something astonishing. Its body was hammered from a single sheet of bronze, seamless, unwelded, with perfectly even thickness across its surface. For a pre-Iron Age society, without precision tools or stable, high-temperature furnaces, shaping such a flawless shell that fit tightly around a human head was a near-impossible feat. What astonishes researchers most is the alloy composition of the helmet. Modern analysis reveals that the bronze contains about 9–11% tin, a perfect ratio that makes the metal both strong and flexible, with exceptional resistance to corrosion, comparable to modern industrial alloys. Yet over 700 years ago, when people only had clay furnaces and charcoal fuel, achieving such precise proportions would have been nearly impossible. How could ancient craftsmen control temperature, remove impurities, and balance the metal's composition with such accuracy? Could it be that they possessed a form of metallurgical intelligence long lost to history? Some scholars believe the Illyrians may have inherited metallurgical secrets from the copper-tin mines of the Dinaric Alps, where these two rare ores intersected. They might have developed special techniques relying on the color and sound of the metal when struck to gauge its purity, a kind of sensory knowledge that required no measuring tools. Meanwhile, other researchers argue that behind these helmets lies evidence of a vanished technological civilization, one that once possessed advanced foundries, now buried beneath the war's time and soil of the ancient Balkan landscape. When lasers were cast over these helmets, curved bronze striations appeared, evidence of rotational hammering and even pressure, resembling modern metal spinning. No crude hammer marks, no seams, only smooth, reflective surfaces. Perhaps the craftsmen used wooden or leather mallets, tapping rhythmically to compact the bronze, without fracturing its crystalline structure. Scientists call this prehistoric metallurgical intelligence, a domain we've only begun to comprehend. Some helmets were silver-plated or thinly gilded, not merely for aesthetics, but possibly to prevent oxidation or denote high status. The coatings, only a few microns thick, adhered firmly through millennia, proof of precise surface control. The artisans may have used natural sulfate or silver salts to trigger electrochemical bonding, a process only described scientifically 2,000 years later. Another mystery lies in their distribution. Hundreds have been found from southern Greece to the Adriatic coast, yet no major foundries have been discovered. Were they forged in one secret center, then traded as emblems of tribal power, or did each clan guard its own metallurgical secrets as sacred heritage? Some scholars now see this as Europe's first metal network, a fusion of commerce, faith, and warfare linking the ancient Balkan peoples. Many Greco-Illyrian helmets unearthed in tombs show no dents or battle scars, suggesting ceremonial rather than military use. Some graves held clay heads or effigies wearing the helmets, surrounded by pottery and ritual weapons, scenes echoing a belief that a warrior's soul must be protected by bronze to cross into the afterlife. Small holes near the ears or nape, once thought for hearing, may instead have held charms or leather cords connecting the wearer to Ares or ancestral spirits. Several helmets bear enigmatic markings, unlike known Greek or Illyrian scripts. The shallow, repetitive lines form geometric patterns more like codes than words. Some interpret them as tribal emblems, others as protective charms etched in a metallic language, prayers to divine guardians. None have been fully deciphered. These are voices frozen in bronze echoes of a vanished civilization. The true marvel remains the engineering. Each helmet was strong, yet astonishingly light, roughly 1.2 to 1.4 kilograms, enough for protection without hindrance. The thickness was greatest at the crown, tapering toward cheeks and neck, evidence of deliberate stress distribution. Such equilibrium could not be accidental. It was the legacy of generations of craftsmen refining metalwork through intuition. Archaeologists call it the silent art of metallurgy. No blueprints, no records, yet mastery beyond imitation. Microscopic studies reveal a process akin to heat treating and differential quenching. The outer surface cooled faster than the core, forming a hard shell around a softer interior, much like multi-layered Japanese blades. This gave the helmet both rigidity and flexibility. How could 7th century BC artisans achieve this without thermometers? Perhaps by instinct, watching the glowing hues shift from red to orange to yellow, an art guided by sight and rhythm rather than formulas. Further analysis shows that some helmets were polished with crushed quartz or iron oxide, producing a mirror-like sheen and resistance to corrosion. That faint, oxidized layer preserved their golden luster for over 2 millennia underground. Modern metallurgists have tried to replicate it. Few have matched the same smoothness and endurance. Those craftsmen understood matter in ways we've forgotten, one archaeologist remarked. They lacked equations, but possessed intuition, and intuition cannot be replaced by science. This mastery of metallurgy turned the Greco-Illyrian helmet into more than armor. It became a symbol of a civilization poised between science and myth. It protected not only the warrior's head, but also a people's memory, their skill, their pride, and their belief that metal had a soul. In its tarnished bronze today, we still glimpse the hammer's rhythm and the fire's breath, traces of hands that once transformed earth and ore into immortality. Though hundreds of these helmets now rest in museums, their full secret remains unsolved. Perhaps the knowledge perished with the last of those smiths. Or perhaps deep beneath the Balkans, an ancient forge still sleeps, where fire and hammer once shaped divine-headed warriors of metal. Until that place is found, the ancient Greco-Illyrian helmet endures as a question without an answer. Did the ancients understand metal and themselves far better than we dare to believe? In the burning sands of Abydos, archaeologists recently uncovered a tomb that has rewritten everything we thought we knew about Egypt's earliest kings. It wasn't the tomb of a pharaoh, it was the tomb of a woman, Meritt-Neath. And inside it, buried for more than 5 millennia, lay clues to one of the strangest, most enigmatic stories in human history. The excavation began as a routine mission by the German Archaeological Institute, part of a long-term survey of early dynastic graves. But when they unearthed the seal impressions and hieroglyphs bearing the name Meritt-Neath, they realized this was no ordinary burial. Her resting place stood among the tombs of kings, constructed with precision and grandeur that rivaled royalty. It was as if someone had deliberately placed her among gods. What do you think, was Meritt-Neath truly Egypt's first female ruler, or something even greater? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Meritt-Neath's tomb dates back to around 2900 BCE, the very dawn of Egypt's first dynasty. Yet it defies the norms of its era in nearly every way. While most women of that period were buried in modest family plots, Meritt-Neath's burial complex was a city unto itself, a central chamber surrounded by over 40 subsidiary graves, complete with storage rooms offering pits and one of the oldest known wine cellars in the world. Each jar, perfectly sealed with resin and clay, still contained traces of ancient wine, a mixture of grapes, herbs, and tree sap. Some even had intact corks, made from imported cedar resin, proof of early trade with the Levant. These weren't just funerary offerings. They represented wealth, technology, and international connection that should not have existed at such an early stage of civilization. More astonishing still, her name appeared in royal contexts, engraved on official jars, stamped on clay seals, and even listed beside the king's jet and den. This suggested something previously unthinkable, that Meritt-Neath might have ruled Egypt. When the team discovered the vast wine storage rooms, they realized they were standing before the earliest evidence of mass beverage production known to history. 300 jars were found in orderly rows, the residue within them still showing traces of fermented grapes, figs, and hints of honey. Chemical analysis revealed that these wines were imported or produced using complex methods far beyond the local capability of the time. The wine cellar itself was carefully ventilated, constructed with channels that kept the chambers cool and dry, a feat of engineering nearly impossible for 2900 BCE. To the ancient Egyptians, wine wasn't simply a drink, it was sacred. It symbolized life, vitality, and communion with the gods. To bury such quantities with one person spoke volumes about their status. Meritt-Neath was not only royal, she was divine. Around her burial chamber lay 41 smaller tombs. Each one contained the remains of servants, guards, and attendants, all buried simultaneously. No signs of disease, no signs of violence. They were ritual sacrifices, likely killed or voluntarily entombed to accompany their queen into eternity. It's a haunting image, a society so devoted to its leader that dozens would give up their lives to serve her beyond death. This mass ritual hints at an absolute authority, one rarely granted to women in early ancient Egypt. Who was she that her will could command such loyalty? The structure of Meritt-Neath's tomb continues to baffle archaeologists today. Though built merely from sun-dried mud bricks, its walls have remained intact for more than 5 millennia, resisting the wind and sand of the desert without collapse. The foundation was reinforced with multiple layers and equipped with a hidden drainage system beneath precisely angled corridors, proof that its builders understood gravity, ventilation, and water flow far beyond their time. Several passageways are perfectly aligned with the North Star, revealing a fusion of astronomy and architecture that would only reappear centuries later in the pyramids. The entire layout displays near-perfect symmetry, as if calculated with modern measuring instruments. Archaeologists now call it the first blueprint of the Pyramid Age, a prototype for the monumental structures later raised at Saqqara and Giza. If this theory is true, then Meritt-Neath was not merely a witness to Egypt's early history, she was the one who shaped it. This is where the mystery deepens and where scholars begin to disagree. Was she truly the first female ruler of Egypt, or something even greater? Officially, Egyptologists identify Meritt-Neath as the mother of King Den, suggesting she ruled as regent until her son came of age. But the evidence inside her tomb tells a different story. Her name appears within royal cartouches, an honor typically reserved for reigning pharaohs. Administrative seals refer to her as she who presides over the kingship, a title never used for a mere regent. And in the nearby tomb of Den, her name is invoked as that of a divine protector, implying posthumous worship. Some researchers, like Dr. Jana Jones of Macquarie University, have proposed that Meritt-Neath was not simply a queen mother, but Egypt's first female pharaoh, ruling in her own right, predating Hatshepsut by over 1,000 years. But there's a more esoteric theory, one that borders on myth. Ancient inscriptions link Meritt-Neath's name with the goddess Neith, one of the oldest deities in the Egyptian pantheon, associated with creation, warfare, and weaving the fabric of reality itself. Neith was called the Mother of the Gods, who was there at the beginning. If Meritt-Neath's name means beloved of Neith, some Egyptologists believe it was not merely a name, but a title of embodiment, marking her as a living vessel or avatar of the goddess. Could it be that her followers considered her a divine being, a bridge between the human and celestial realms that might explain the sacrificial burials, the celestial alignment of her tomb, and the vast quantities of sacred wine meant to sustain her spirit? One chilling hypothesis suggests that Meritt-Neath might never have been an individual at all, but rather a ritual identity assumed by successive priestesses to maintain the illusion of divine continuity. Her tomb then would not mark one woman's death, but the birth of a dynasty of living goddesses. After her reign, history grew silent. No texts describe her deeds, no monuments bear her face. It's as though the sands of Egypt swallowed her memory on purpose, as if her power had to be forgotten. Later, dynasties rewrote history, glorifying male kings and erasing women from the line of succession. Meritt-Neath became a ghost, a forbidden name, whispered only in funerary rituals. And yet her tomb remained untouched, undisturbed, waiting beneath the desert for millennia. When the archaeologists opened it, they found not chaos, but order. Not decay, but design. Every brick, every jar, every symbol still spoke of a civilization that saw death, not as an ending, but a continuation of divinity. So who was Meritt-Neath? A mother regent guiding Egypt's first kings, a queen who dared to rule in an age of gods and men, or a vessel for something far older? The manifestation of Neith herself, the goddess of creation, reborn in mortal form. The truth remains buried under layers of time and belief, but in every ancient jar of wine, every servant's grave, and every perfectly aligned wall of her tomb, there lingers an echo, a voice from the dawn of civilization, whispering that power, wisdom, and mystery once wore a woman's face. Today, Meritt-Neath's tomb is being restored and studied, yet the deeper scientists dig, the less they seem to understand. Dating analyses and 3D reconstructions revealed that this monument does not belong to a primitive age, but to a civilization far more advanced and spiritual than imagined. The story of Meritt-Neath is not merely about a tomb, it is about the birth of divine power, where the boundary between human and God fades beneath the golden sands of Abydos. Deep within the jungles of Central America, where ancient temples have turned to dust, and the wind still carries whispers of the past, archaeologists uncovered glowing faces in the dark, the jade funeral masks of the Maya. Each was assembled from hundreds of flawless jade fragments crafted with a precision modern technology can barely replicate. More than mere burial offerings, these masks were gateways between life and death, proof of the mysterious knowledge of a civilization that once touched eternity. And even after thousands of years, those jade faces remain shining softly in the darkness as if defying time itself. Could it be possible that the Maya knew a forgotten technique, something that allowed them to shape jade with precision we still can't explain today? Share what you think in the comments below. To the Maya, jade was not just stone. It was the breath of life, the blood of the earth. In ancient Mayan, jade was called Yaxchel, the green heart, symbolizing rebirth and immortality. When a person died, their breath left the body, and so a piece of jade was placed in the mouth to keep the soul within. The jade mask became the new face of the spirit, the visage it would wear in the afterlife. But what astonished archaeologists was not only this spiritual belief, but also how the Maya turned a stone harder than steel into flawless mosaics that seem almost laser-cut. Jadeite, the sacred stone of the Maya, is one of the hardest materials on Earth, rated 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs scale, nearly as tough as quartz and only slightly softer than diamond. Yet thousands of years ago, the Maya managed to carve it into thin, mirror-smooth fragments so precise that modern microscopes can barely detect the seams between them. What makes this astonishing is that the Maya had no metal tools. They knew nothing of iron, copper, or steel. Their artisans worked only with stone, water, and sand, yet somehow achieved a level of craftsmanship that even modern lapidary experts find difficult to reproduce. Experiments by archaeologists attempting to copy the process using primitive tools have all ended in failure. Jadeite is too dense to be cut by friction alone. Grinding one small piece can take weeks, and even then, the surface remains rough, dull, and uneven. In contrast, the funerary mask of King Pakal the Great, found in Palenque, is composed of over 200 jade fragments, each one polished to a glass-like sheen and aligned so perfectly that light passes through the joints without a hint of distortion. Such precision suggests a technique that defies conventional understanding. Did the Maya discover a method to soften or reshape stone, perhaps using heat vibration or some lost alchemical process? Or was their knowledge of mineral resonance far greater than we realize, allowing them to work jade as if it were clay? These questions continue to haunt archaeologists, standing as a silent reminder that ancient hands once achieved what modern science still struggles to explain. Pakal's mask, made for a ruler worshipped as the god of rebirth, is the ultimate proof of Mayan mastery. Each jade tile was geometrically shaped to align flawlessly with the contours of a real human face, lips, nose, cheekbones, even faint wrinkles. There is no glue, no frame, only meticulous alignment, calculated to microscopic precision. Experts compare this craftsmanship to the fitting of the stones in the Egyptian pyramids or the Inca walls of Peru, where massive stones, weighing tons, join without mortar. But here the perfection exists on a miniature scale of mere centimeters, making it exponentially harder. A single misalignment could ruin the symmetry entirely. Yet the Maya repeated this feat over centuries. Some researchers theorize they might have used a quartz sand or obsidian dust slurry to erode jade or pyrite tools sharp enough to rival metal blades. Still, none of these explain the mirror-like polish or the smooth flowing curves that today would require precision machinery. A more daring hypothesis suggests the Maya understood resonance and vibration. Their temples display remarkable acoustic engineering stairways that echo like the call of the sacred Quetzal bird chambers that amplify the hiss of a serpent. Some archaeologists propose that jade might have been softened through sound or hydraulic vibration, altering its crystal lattice without mechanical force. Though unproven, the idea fascinates scholars because the Maya linked all rituals to sound and rhythm. In their cosmology, everything sings stone water, even the human soul. If they truly harness sound to shape matter, then these masks are eternal songs carved in stone, the moment when music became breath. Beyond technical brilliance, the jade masks embody the Mayan concept of rebirth. Upon death, a king's spirit had to cross Xibalba, the perilous underworld, to reunite with the sun god. The mask, shining green like the color of life, was a celestial guide to help the soul remember the way home. Eyes inlaid with seashell or obsidian symbolized the vision beyond death, while jade lips represented the final words spoken to the gods. The physical face was a mortal shell. The jade mask was the true face of the spirit, crafted so perfectly that the soul would never lose its form in eternity. Many masks were found surrounded by hundreds of jade beads arranged in constellations, Orion, Venus, the rising sun. Each mask may have served as an astronomical chart, guiding the soul through the cosmos. Some masks blend human, divine, and animal traits, suggesting that the deceased became a sacred hybrid, being a guardian of cosmic domains. Chemical analysis of certain masks revealed traces of human blood, implying their use in sacrificial or revival rites. To the Maya blood, the essence of life could activate the spiritual power of jade, transforming the mask into a living vessel capable of carrying a soul through Xibalba. A stunning discovery shows that some masks were crafted decades before their owners were born. They were preordained relics for future kings, as if the Maya could foresee destiny. Each jade fragment carried symbolic origins. Jade from the east, for light; from the west, for death; from the south, for rebirth. When assembled, they formed a cosmic cycle of life, death, and renewal, mirroring the eternal rhythm of the universe. Even with today's lasers and electron microscopes, researchers still cannot fully reproduce a jade mask using only ancient methods. The flawless joints, the lustrous polish, and the color's endurance for over 300 years remain unmatched. Scientists have admitted, we are not just looking at art, we are looking at the remnants of a lost science. Like the pyramids of Kukulkan or the observatories of Uxmal, the jade masks stand as windows into forgotten wisdom, fragments of an ancient intelligence that once understood the harmony between matter-spirit and the stars. Thousands of years after Mayan kings turned to dust, their jade faces remain intact, silent, impossibly beautiful. No metal has corroded, no fracture has appeared. The green stone still glows like rainforest dew, as if even time itself bows before the hands that shaped it. For the Maya, death was rebirth, stone was soul, and jade was the memory of the universe. Each mask tells not only the story of the one buried beneath, but also the pride of a civilization that dared to surpass the limits of matter to touch immortality. Perhaps hidden within every perfect line of jade lies a message to the modern world. Humanity becomes immortal only when it creates something that time cannot destroy. Hidden beneath the dense jungles of Central and South America lie the silent echoes of two extraordinary worlds, the Maya and the Amazonian civilizations. Separated by thousands of kilometers, by mountains, rivers, and time itself, yet somehow they seem to hum the same forgotten melody. A story written not in ink or stone, but in geometry, soil, and stars. For centuries, scholars believed the Amazon was an untouched wilderness, too wild to host cities, too hostile for civilization. Meanwhile, the Maya were seen as a singular miracle of the tropics, a people who somehow defied the odds to build pyramids in the rainforest. But now, with new eyes, satellite scans, LiDAR mapping, and modern archaeology, both worlds are revealing a shared secret. Neither jungle was ever truly wild. They were engineered, designed, and guided by hands far more ancient than we ever imagined. What do you think about this theory? Could the ancient Maya and the people of the Amazon have once been two branches of a single mother civilization that vanished from human history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe it's just coincidence or evidence of an ancient global knowledge that once connected us all? In the lowland jungles of the Maya, the seemingly endless canopy hides an entire forgotten world. Beneath those leaves lie enormous city-stepped pyramid stone causeways linking ceremonial plazas and intricate reservoirs that once flowed like the lifeblood of a living organism. Thanks to LiDAR technology, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of hidden structures, revealing a complex urban network that once sustained millions of people. Across the continent, the Amazon rainforest tells a similar story. Circular earthworks, ceremonial mounds, and geometric formations have begun to emerge, all connected by ancient roads, cutting through the forest, forming cities with clear design and orientation. From above, they reflect the same symmetry and order found in Maya architecture. Up close, each mound and canal seems to whisper of a deliberate human hand, blending mathematics, spirituality, and celestial knowledge. Could it be that between these two distant jungles, separated by thousands of miles, there once existed a shared language of geometry and urban soul, preserved by generations long vanished from history? The Maya were true masters of stone. They not only built immense limestone pyramids, but achieved an almost impossible level of precision in every fitted block structures that have withstood thousands of years of storms, proving a technical sophistication far ahead of their time. Far to the south, the peoples of the Amazon mastered the very earth itself. Lacking stone to build with, they created terra preta, an artificial black soil that has remained fertile for millennia. This mixture, made from biochar bones, bark, and organic matter through a mysterious process of controlled burning and fermentation, is something modern science still cannot fully replicate. One side shaped stone to endure time, the other nurtured soil to renew forever. Both reveal a profound understanding of nature's laws, chemistry, and ecological balance far beyond what we usually attribute to the ancient world. Perhaps they had discovered a language of matter, a form of knowledge that bound humanity to the living planet itself. Both civilizations lived by the heavens. The Maya aligned their temples with the sun's solstices and Venus's orbit, embedding the cosmos into architecture. In the Amazon, the Stonehenge of Rio Grande aligns perfectly with celestial events, suggesting sky worship, observation, and ritual. Different materials, same purpose. Different skies, same gaze. It's as though both peoples inherited an ancient astronomical grammar passed down not through conquest or contact, but through memory. The Maya developed an advanced irrigation and agricultural system unlike anything seen in the ancient world. They built vast networks of canals, terraced fields, and massive reservoirs to store water during the dry season and regulate flow during the rains. These structures not only sustained life, but also allowed forests and farmland to naturally regenerate, creating a stable man-made ecosystem that lasted for centuries. On the other side of the continent, Ancient Amazonian peoples did much the same. They raised fields, guided water through interlaced ditches, and managed forests in ecological cycles. They did not burn the jungle to claim land. Instead, they transformed it into a colossal garden where plants, animals, and humans coexisted in balance. Both civilizations reveal a shared philosophy: nature is not meant to be conquered, but collaborated with. To them, the earth was a living being, and true technology was the art of living in harmony with the planet's own breath. Recent genetic studies reveal faint links traces of shared ancestry or migration between early Amazonian and Mesoamerican peoples. Fragments of ceramics and agricultural crops found across regions suggest trade routes far older than recorded history. Perhaps the jungle itself was once a highway of life, connecting north and south through rivers and coastlines long before the Inca or Aztec empires arose. If so, then the idea of isolation collapses. Instead, what emerges is a vision of a Pan-American civilization, one consciousness, fragmented by distance but united by knowledge. As scholars delve deeper into the striking parallels between the Maya and Amazonian civilizations, they begin to confront one of the most controversial hypotheses in modern archaeology. Could both cultures be remnants of a single mother civilization, a unified culture that existed long before written history began? This theory, known as the Proto-American civilization, suggests that a prehistoric society may once have stretched from the Yucatan Peninsula to the Andes Mountains, flourishing long before Egypt or Mesopotamia ever rose. The evidence hidden within the jungles is difficult to ignore. Both civilizations share a remarkably similar urban model: precise geometric layouts, ceremonial plazas, astronomical alignments, and a deep relationship between architecture and the cosmos. They also demonstrate parallel agricultural mastery. The Maya brought stone to life, while the Amazonians gave life to the soil, two different approaches that served the same purpose of sustaining life across centuries. Above all, both cultures reveal an obsession with eternal cycles of rain, stars, death, and rebirth. It is as though each preserved fragments of a shared worldview, like shards of a shattered mirror still reflecting the same sky. But who were they? Did they vanish in the cataclysms that followed the last ice age? Or did their descendants retreat into the forests, carrying those memories and transforming them into two distinct identities, the Maya and Amazonia? Some scholars point to a forgotten Great Migration, while others believe in a tropical Atlantis, a civilization erased by ancient climate upheavals or celestial disasters. Whatever the truth, the uncanny similarities between them suggest that human history may not be a straight line, but a recurring spiral where knowledge is buried, lost, and rediscovered. Perhaps the Maya long count calendar, with its immense astronomical cycles, was never meant as prophecy, but rather as a memory of worlds that once existed before our own. Today, both the Maya ruins and the Amazonian geoglyphs are reclaiming their stories through science. Each LiDAR scan is like lifting a corner of the Earth's memory. We are beginning to see that the jungle was never primitive. It was once alive, with order humming with mathematics, astronomy, and design. The trees that now swallow temples once grew beside human minds that measured the heavens, and the soil that nourishes life today was crafted by those who understood balance better than modern industry ever has. If there truly was a mother civilization, it may not have left behind monuments of stone or gold, but knowledge encoded in ecosystems. Knowledge of how to build without destroying, to expand without consuming. Perhaps that is the real legacy that unites Maya and Amazonia. Not kings, not empires, but the art of living with the planet. And maybe that is why their story is resurfacing now, in an age where humanity has forgotten this art. Could the ancient Maya and the people of the Amazon have been two branches of the same ancient root civilization, or merely two different paths leading to the same truth? Is the rainforest still hiding the cradle of a mother civilization whose heart once beat beneath its emerald canopy until the last buried city is unearthed? This question will continue to haunt humanity. Did civilization begin once or many times? And are we now remembering the very first? The Nile River, the lifeline of ancient Egyptian civilization, has long been seen as a symbol of permanence. For thousands of years, it nourished fertile lands, sustained humanity, and made possible one of the most radiant civilizations in history. Yet recent discoveries have forced scientists to question that assumption. Using ground-penetrating radar and advanced satellite imagery, an international research team has uncovered a buried branch of the ancient Nile, a vast river channel that once meandered through the land of the pyramids. They call it the Aramat branch, the branch of the pyramids. This discovery not only reshapes our understanding of ancient Egyptian geography, but also opens a profound mystery. How could such a massive river vanish completely from the surface, swallowed by the desert? What do you think happened to this ancient river? Could nature alone have buried such a massive waterway? Or is there something more we don't yet understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. According to data published in Nature Communications Earth and Environment, the Aramat branch once stretched more than 60 kilometers and reached widths of up to 700 meters, a true river rather than a mere canal. It lay west of the modern Nile, running parallel to the zone where dozens of famous pyramids from Giza to Saqqara to Dashur were constructed. Notably, most of the causeways of these pyramids point directly toward this ancient waterway, as if it served as a ceremonial or logistical harbor. This suggests that the Aramat branch was not merely a river, it was a religious and transport artery of the ancient empire, a lifeline through which millions of tons of limestone granite and even the souls of the dead were carried. Yet all those traces vanished beneath the sands, and only now, after millennia, have scientists retraced its hidden flow. The most baffling question surrounding this discovery is the reason for the river's disappearance. How could a river hundreds of meters wide, powerful enough to carry pyramid-building materials, simply evaporate from the Earth's surface? The answers, or rather the chain of hypotheses, reveal a complex story of geology and climate, where the slow, relentless forces of nature quietly redrew the map of Egypt. Researchers believe that over 4,000 years ago, toward the end of the Old Kingdom, the climate of northeastern Africa underwent dramatic change. A centuries-long drought, known as the 4.2 kilo-year event, swept through the region. Winds from the western desert blew waves of sand into the Nile Valley, gradually filling smaller tributaries. Meanwhile, the Nile's water level dropped drastically, leaving branches like Aramat without sufficient flow to survive. Over the centuries, the combined effect of wind, sand, and sediment slowly buried the riverbed until it was completely sealed, a subterranean river fossilized beneath the desert floor. Climate alone cannot fully explain the mystery. Some experts argue that geological movements also played a significant role. Over thousands of years, the Nile Delta and Valley experienced tectonic tilting, subtle but enough to alter water flow. As the western lands gradually rose, the main Nile channel likely shifted eastward, abandoning the Aramat branch and cutting off its supply. Eventually, it dried out completely, leaving only layers of ancient clay and silt traces that modern ground-penetrating radar has finally brought to light. Curiously, the death of the Aramat branch was not sudden. Sediment cores reveal a slow weakening of the current over centuries, interrupted by short revivals, perhaps during rare rainy periods or local geomorphic shifts. This suggests that during the time the pyramids were being built, the ancient Egyptians still saw the river flowing. They might never have realized it was dying beneath their feet. As they ferried massive stones upon its waters, none could have imagined that centuries later, the same river would be swallowed by sand, leaving their monuments isolated in the barren desert. A bolder hypothesis proposes that the drying of the Aramat branch directly contributed to the decline of Egypt's early dynasties. As the river disappeared, transport of heavy materials by boat became difficult. Ritual and agricultural zones nearby suffered severe disruption. The empire's irrigation systems faltered, harvests failed, and people were forced to migrate eastward toward the surviving Nile Channel. This ecological stress, coupled with climate collapse, may have helped trigger the fall of the Old Kingdom, one of the longest periods of crisis in ancient Egyptian history. Even with all these plausible theories, the mystery remains unsolved. Why did the river vanish without leaving visible traces? How could centuries of archaeological excavation around Giza and Saqqara miss it entirely? The answer lies in the relentless forces of nature. Desert winds piled up dunes over millennia, burying every sign of the river more than 10 meters below the surface. Only with the advent of modern radar and satellite imaging did scientists finally detect a long, soft, continuous band beneath the ground, the ghostly imprint of an ancient river. This discovery raises a larger question. Could there be other lost branches of the Nile still hidden beneath Egypt's sands? If a major river like Aramat could disappear so completely, smaller tributaries serving ancient settlements may have been buried forever. The Aramat find might be just the first chapter in rewriting Egypt's paleo-hydrological map in which the dead rivers could hold the keys to unlocking humanity's earliest engineering and cultural history. From an archaeological perspective, the Aramat branch may finally explain a long-standing puzzle: why are most pyramids clustered along the western desert rim rather than near today's Nile? For decades, scholars believed the West Bank was chosen for symbolic reasons, the land of the setting sun, the realm of the afterlife. Yet this discovery suggests a far more practical reason. Back then, this region wasn't a desert at all. It bordered a thriving river, ideal for transporting stone and performing funerary rites. The so-called valley temples at the base of the pyramids, long thought to be ceremonial entrances, may in fact have been ancient harbor docks where royal boats delivered pharaohs' bodies for burial on the desert plateau. Today, when we gaze upon the pyramids rising lonely from the sand, we see monuments of stone and mystery. But with the rediscovery of the lost river, the picture grows vivid once more. Thousands of years ago, each pyramid may have stood beside bustling docks, canals, and wooden ships drifting beneath the sun, a living world of water and labor, now buried under golden dust. The disappearance of the Aramat branch is more than a geological event. It is a metaphor for the fate of civilizations. It shows how nature reshapes history, how a slight shift in climate or terrain can topple entire empires. And it reminds us that every layer of desert sand hides more than soil. It hides forgotten chapters of our collective story. As modern science uncovers these lost rivers, we are not merely mapping ancient waterways, we are rediscovering humanity's enduring struggle to live in harmony with water, with nature, and with the ever-flowing current of time itself. Beneath the silent fields of Ukraine lies the ghost of a civilization older than the pyramids, a world that once burned with life, then vanished without a trace. There were no kings, no temples of stone, no written names carved into history, only circles of charred earth and shards of pottery whispering from the soil. Each fragment tells of a people who painted their world with spirals of mystery, who built vast circular cities long before Europe even dreamed of civilization. This was Trypillia, a name half erased by time, yet powerful enough to challenge everything we thought we knew about humanity's beginnings, a culture that rose in harmony with nature, flourished in peace, and then disappeared in fire, leaving behind not ruins, but questions that still echo through 7,000 years of silence. What do you think truly happened to the people of Trypillia? Why did such an advanced civilization simply vanish? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Trypillia was first uncovered in the late 19th century when archaeologists stumbled upon vast layers of clay and pottery scattered across the fertile plains of Ukraine. What they initially assumed were small Neolithic villages soon revealed something extraordinary: entire settlements organized in precise concentric circles, each layer of houses curving perfectly around a central open space. That center, believed to be a ceremonial or communal plaza, suggested an advanced understanding of urban design far beyond its age. Some sites stretched over 400 hectares, containing thousands of uniform dwellings, enough to shelter 10,000 to 15,000 people, an unimaginable number for the 5th millennium BCE. There were no walls, no palaces, no signs of rulers, only symmetry, order, and balance. Trypillia was not just a cluster of villages. It was a planned metropolis, a vision of cooperation that appeared millennia before Rome, Athens, or even the first cities of Mesopotamia. What made Trypillia truly unique was not only its size, but its social structure, which seemed to defy the evolutionary logic of human civilization. There were no palaces, no fortresses, no weapons of war. Each house was nearly identical, built from clay and straw, painted in sacred hues of red, black, and white. There is no evidence of kings' classes or centralized power. Trypillia appears to have been a peaceful, egalitarian, and possibly matriarchal society, living in rhythm with nature and the cycles of the earth. One of the most haunting mysteries of Trypillia lies in its ritual of fire, an act both destructive and sacred. Archaeologists discovered that every few generations, entire settlements were deliberately burned to the ground. The people would carefully place their belongings inside pottery tools, grains, even figurines, and then set their homes ablaze, allowing the fire to consume everything. This was not war nor accident, but an intentional ceremony repeated over centuries. Some researchers believe it symbolized the death and rebirth of the land, a ritual to renew the balance between humans and nature. Others see it as a spiritual cleansing, the destruction of the old to invite new life. Whatever the meaning, the flames immortalized Trypillia's world. The intense heat turned clay walls into ceramic shells, freezing their culture in time. What remains today are the charred outlines of homes still whispering of a people who embraced fire, not as an end, but as a passage to eternity. From the ashes of their burned settlements, archaeologists unearthed thousands of ceramic masterpieces, each piece a silent page from Trypillia's unwritten story. Their pottery wasn't merely functional, it was art language and faith intertwined. The vessels were covered with intricate spirals, solar discs, and wave-like patterns that seemed to move when touched by light, as if carrying an inner rhythm. Many depicted scenes of birth, fertility, and the eternal cycle of life, suggesting that creation itself was sacred to them. Others bore abstract symbols that no one has ever decoded, markings that repeat with mathematical precision, almost like a written code. Some scholars now believe these motifs may represent Europe's earliest proto-writing system, a visual script that predates known alphabets by millennia. More remarkably, astronomers studying the designs found that certain symbols align with lunar phases, solstice cycles, and stellar constellations, hinting that Trypillia's art was also a cosmic map, a reflection of their effort to connect earthly life with the order of the heavens. In the ruins of their burned homes, archaeologists discovered thousands of clay figurines of women, rounded bellies, full breasts, sometimes pregnant. These were not queens or warriors, but representations of the mother goddess believed to rule fertility, harvests, and the living earth. The abundance of such figures suggests Trypillia was likely a matriarchal society where women embodied creativity and continuity. They were not only givers of life, but also keepers of knowledge and ritual, mediating between the human world and the sacred. Around 2750 BCE, the thriving world of Trypillia came to a sudden and silent end. Entire settlements that once pulsed with life were left empty, their circular cities turning to dust beneath the Ukrainian sun. There were no signs of battle, no weapons, no mass graves, only quiet abandonment. The mystery has tormented archaeologists for over a century. Some suggest a shift in climate may have dried the fertile plains, forcing the people to scatter in search of new lands. Others believe they were gradually absorbed by Indo-European tribes, moving south, their culture dissolving rather than dying. Yet some traces hint at something deeper, perhaps a spiritual decision, a final ritual of departure in harmony with their belief in renewal. Trypillia did not collapse in chaos. It faded with purpose, leaving behind symbols, art, and architecture that quietly echoed through the DNA of later European civilizations. This question has haunted archaeologists for decades. Trypillia appeared too early, too advanced, and too isolated to have developed naturally from local Stone Age cultures. There is no clear transitional phase from hunter-gatherer societies. They emerged almost fully formed with urban planning, sophisticated art, and early metallurgy. Some scholars, such as Maria Gimbutas, argue that Trypillia was part of Old Europe, a prehistoric super-civilization, stretching from the Balkans to the Dnipro River, later erased by Indo-European invasions. She believed the Trypillians descended from an ancient earth-worshipping culture devoted to peace and creation. Others think influences may have come from the south, from Anatolia, where the Çatalhöyük civilization once flourished with remarkably similar rituals. More daring theories suggest Trypillia was the offspring of a lost civilization, perhaps one that once thrived around the Black Sea before being drowned by post-Ice Age floods. The resemblance between Trypillian motifs and symbols found in Blombos Cave, South Africa, or the ancient Danube sites suggests this might not have been a local phenomenon at all, but a fragment of a forgotten global network of prehistoric knowledge. Some researchers even believe the circular layout of Trypillian cities was based on natural energy patterns akin to vortex fields understood by other ancient cultures. The empty center may have served as a communal ritual space, a focal point for connecting with cosmic forces. Could they have known something profound about the harmony between humans and the earth, something we are only now beginning to rediscover? As archaeologists dig deeper, Trypillia only grows more mysterious. Each discovery answers one question but opens another. How did a Stone Age society master planning astronomy and art, then burn its own cities to ashes? From above, the ancient circles of Trypillia still scar the Ukrainian plains like echoes of memory. They remind us that human history may have begun far earlier and been far stranger than we imagine. Somewhere beneath the charred soil may still rest the secret of who truly built Trypillia and whether they were really human, like us. Hidden beneath what seems to be an ordinary grassy hill in central Mexico lies one of humanity's most astonishing and misunderstood achievements, the Great Pyramid of Cholula, or Tlachihualtepetl, meaning the man-made mountain in Nahuatl. At first glance, the hill topped by a gleaming colonial church does not look like a pyramid at all. Yet beneath its slopes rests the largest pyramid ever built on Earth, by volume a monument that dwarfs even the Great Pyramid of Giza, and whose origins remain shrouded in both myth and mystery. Was the Pyramid of Cholula built by an ancient civilization we no longer remember, or by generations of believers trying to reach the heavens? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For centuries, the true nature of the hill remained unknown. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they built the Iglesia de Nuestra Señora de los Remedios, a Catholic church right on top of what they thought was a natural rise. In a cruel twist of irony, their symbol of conquest and faith was unknowingly placed upon the buried heart of an ancient civilization. The Spanish never realized that beneath the church's golden domes lay a pyramid 400 meters wide at its base and nearly 70 meters tall, built from millions of adobe bricks. Only in the early 20th century did excavations reveal the staggering truth. This hill was in fact a colossal, man-made mountain older than most empires and more enigmatic than any monument in the Americas. Unlike other pyramids built in a single era, the Pyramid of Cholula is a monument layered by generations. Archaeologists discovered at least 6 distinct construction phases, each built over the previous one. The earliest layer dates back to around 300 BCE, when the region was inhabited by pre-classic cultures, possibly related to the Olmecs or early Toltecs. Each subsequent civilization added its own architecture, artwork, and altars, burying the old to honor the new. This process created a stratified record of Central Mexican history, from the pre-classic to the post-classic period. Deep within the tunnels, archaeologists have uncovered frescoes of serpents, jaguars, and deities, suggesting that the pyramid served as a spiritual axis, a place where heaven and earth met through ritual. Some passages still contain altars, lined with pottery shards, and offerings untouched for centuries, as if the builders deliberately entombed their faith within layers of clay. At its spiritual core, the pyramid was dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god of wind, wisdom, and renewal. This deity appears throughout Mesoamerica, but nowhere does his symbolism seem so deeply woven into the earth itself. Reliefs of serpent heads with feathered crests emerge from the buried facades, as though the god was coiling beneath the soil. Many scholars believe the entire pyramid was aligned to mimic the sacred mountain Popocatépetl, connecting Cholula's architecture to the cosmic geography of central Mexico. When viewed this way, the pyramid becomes more than a temple. It becomes a cosmic landscape, a man-made volcano designed to mirror divine creation. The people of Cholula might have believed that by constructing their own sacred mountain, they were reenacting the moment when gods shaped the world out of chaos. Beneath the surface lies a vast network of tunnels extending more than 8 kilometers. These were carved by archaeologists in the 20th century to explore the buried layers, but local legends claim that they were originally part of an ancient system connecting different temples in the region. Many of these passageways remain closed today for safety reasons, leaving countless chambers unexamined. Some explorers have described eerie encounters within the tunnels, echoes that seem to answer, or faint drafts of wind that move as if alive. Whether or not these are remnants of airflow or something less tangible, the effect is unmistakable. Inside Cholula, time itself seems to breathe. On the surface stands the bright church of Nuestra Señora de los Remedios, built by Spanish settlers around 1594. It symbolizes the domination of Christianity over indigenous beliefs, but also, unintentionally, the fusion of two worlds. Today, the site of the Golden Church, perched atop an ancient pyramid, embodies the dual soul of Mexico, pre-Columbian endurance beneath colonial faith, ancient gods slumbering beneath the bells of Europe. For the people of Cholula, this duality has become sacred in itself. Every year, traditional ceremonies honoring Quetzalcoatl and the Virgin Mary coexist, showing how ancient spiritual forces have survived through transformation, not extinction. The greatest mystery of Cholula is not just who built it, but how. Without metal tools, wheels, or beasts of burden, ancient builders raised a vast monument using millions of sun-dried bricks bound with earthstone and clay. Each layer was compacted so tightly that it has survived over 2,000 years of earthquakes, hinting at a forgotten form of seismic engineering. Researchers found an ingenious system of drainage and slope alignment, allowing the structure to endure heavy rains without collapse. One hypothesis suggests that each generation expanded the pyramid outward, like the growth rings of a tree, covering older temples with new layers to enlarge it without losing balance. Yet the deepest enigma remains: why did they bury their earlier temples instead of destroying or preserving them? Perhaps it was a sacred act of renewal, a ritual death and rebirth of the gods themselves, or maybe a deliberate attempt to hide something powerful beneath the mountain they made. Here lies the deepest enigma of all. Despite decades of study, no one knows who originally built the Pyramid of Cholula. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or Teotihuacan, no inscriptions record its creators. The earliest evidence suggests the pyramid predated the Aztecs by more than 1,000 years, yet even the Aztecs considered it ancient. When the Spanish chronicler Toribio de Benavente asked the local Nahua people about the pyramid, they told a story passed down for centuries. After a great flood that destroyed the world, giants survived and sought to rebuild a tower that would reach the heavens. The gods, angered by their ambition, destroyed the structure with fire from the sky, scattering the builders and their languages. This myth sounds eerily familiar, echoing tales of the Tower of Babel and ancient cataclysms from many cultures. Could it be coincidence or a memory of real geological events, volcanic eruptions, floods, or migrations that became myth over time? Some archaeologists argue that Cholula was begun by a culture influenced by the Olmecs, often called the mother civilization of Mesoamerica. Others see the fingerprints of the Toltecs, known for their artistry and serpent symbolism. Yet none of these theories explain the sheer scale and ambition of the first construction phase. No other city of that time shows the same resources or manpower. Was Cholula a regional pilgrimage center built by many allied tribes? Or was it the work of an unknown people whose identity vanished beneath their own mountain? Even more curious is the possibility that the pyramid was intentionally hidden. As later civilizations expanded it, they covered earlier layers entirely, as though sealing away something sacred or dangerous. What were they trying to protect? Was it a divine relic, an ancient burial, or perhaps the very secret of their origin? Until today, only a fraction of the pyramid has been excavated. Modern technology, like ground-penetrating radar, hints at vast unexplored chambers, suggesting that the true purpose and builders of Cholula might still lie buried in darkness. For archaeologists, it's as if the monument itself resists being fully understood, a guardian of its own legend. Standing before the Pyramid of Cholula, one feels its paradox, both man-made and natural, ancient yet eternal. The golden church above and the buried pyramid below reflect humanity's endless reach toward the divine. Perhaps the question isn't who built it, but why. Each hidden layer whispers of faith and rebirth, turning Cholula into a living myth, a sacred bridge between heaven and earth, where the past still breathes beneath our feet. In the endless deserts of northern Iraq, where the wind carves ancient whispers into the sand, there stands a city unlike any other, Hatra, the fabled circular city. From afar, it looks less like a ruin and more like a symbol, a perfect ring of stone, drawn by forgotten hands thousands of years ago. Once a radiant heart of faith, art, and mystery, Hatra defied empires, resisted Rome itself, and shone as a sanctuary of the sun god. But now it sleeps silent, broken and wrapped in legend. Its temples are cracked but not defeated. Its walls, though scarred by time, still form the same perfect circle that once baffled the ancient world. And beneath that haunting geometry lies a question that has never been answered. What really happened to the city of the sun? And why did its light disappear into the desert night. What do you think really caused Hatra, the city of the sun, to vanish so suddenly? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From above, Hatra looks like a celestial symbol carved into the earth. The city was built in a near-perfect circle, measuring almost 2 kilometers in diameter. Its walls were thick, arc and strong, rising in 2 concentric rings, reinforced by more than 160 towers and guarded by 4 main gates aligned precisely with the cardinal directions. Archaeologists have long been amazed by this layout, a feat of geometry and defense that seems more advanced than its time. The circle not only represented balance and eternity, but it also gave Hatra an extraordinary ability to withstand siege. The design allowed defenders to move rapidly within the city, sending reinforcements wherever needed. This structure, surrounded by the endless Mesopotamian desert, created an impression of both beauty and power, a cosmic city built for both the gods and the warriors who served them. Unlike most ancient cities that dedicated themselves to one deity, Hatra was a melting pot of religions. It was home to over 20 temples, each devoted to gods from different empires. Shamash, the Mesopotamian sun god; Nergal, the god of war; Hermes and Artemis from the Greek pantheon; Atargatis, the Syrian goddess of fertility; and several Arabian deities. This fusion made Hatra a spiritual crossroads where traders, priests, and scholars from across the region gathered. It was a city of pilgrims and prophets, of rituals and whispers, where Greek columns stood beside Mesopotamian altars, and incense rose to the heavens in a mingling of cultures. The people of Hatra believed that divine protection surrounded their circular walls. They called it the city of Shamash, for they believed the sun god himself illuminated its stones. Hatra's temples reflected a perfect blend of Greek, Persian, and Babylonian architecture. The massive temple of Shamash remains one of the earliest examples of stone vaulting in the Middle East. Its walls rise with the dignity of Parthian power, its columns echo Hellenistic grace, and its carvings bear the symbolic complexity of Babylonian art. The fusion of East and West in a single site has led many historians to call Hatra the missing link between classical and Persian architecture. It was more than a city, it was a statement of coexistence, a cultural experiment that proved beauty could emerge from diversity. During the height of the Parthian Empire, Hatra became a stronghold that even the mighty Romans could not conquer. The city's thick walls, high towers, and strategic location allowed it to resist multiple sieges, most notably those led by Trajan in 116 CE and Septimius Severus in 198 CE. Legend says that when the Roman catapults hurled their flaming stones, the projectiles disappeared in mid-air as if repelled by divine power. Some believed the sun god Shamash had raised an invisible shield over the city. Whether myth or military genius, the fact remains that Hatra survived every attack, earning a reputation as the impregnable city. Modern researchers have discovered that Hatra's layout follows principles of sacred geometry, the ancient belief that numbers and shapes could harness cosmic energy. The city's temples are aligned with solar paths, marking the rising and setting of the sun during solstices. Some even claim Hatra was a giant solar observatory where priests studied the heavens and measured time using light and shadow. The concentric rings of its walls and streets form a mandala-like pattern, symbolizing harmony between the human world and the divine cosmos. To its builders, the circle was not just a defense, it was a symbol of divine perfection. Yet for all its splendor, Hatra's story ends abruptly, a silence as sudden as it is complete. In the early 3rd century, during the rise of the Sassanid Empire, Hatra fell under the shadow of Persia's ambitions. King Shapur I, determined to erase the Parthian legacy, launched a devastating campaign across Mesopotamia. Hatra, the proud circular city, stood in his way. Historical records are scarce, but what is known is chilling. Hatra resisted fiercely as it had done before, but this time the gods did not intervene. The walls that once defied Rome crumbled under Persian fire. Temples were looted, idols shattered, and the sacred city was left to die under the desert sun. But the strangest part, the inhabitants of Hatra vanished. There are no mass graves, no signs of a massacre. Houses were abandoned, mid-use pottery, still half-filled doors, still sealed. It was as if the entire population walked away overnight. Some archaeologists suggest they fled into the desert, while others whisper of darker explanations that a plague, a curse, or even a ritual self-destruction might have consumed them. Local legends say the city was cursed by its own priests after the fall of the Sun Temple, ensuring that no one would ever live there again. For centuries afterward, travelers avoided the ruins, claiming that eerie lights flickered among the columns at dusk, and that voices whispered prayers to a dead god. Even today, Bedouins call it Al-Hada, the Forbidden Circle. When modern archaeologists began to excavate Hatra in the 20th century, they found hundreds of statues, warriors, kings, goddesses, all with serene faces, their eyes carved with almost human expressiveness. But what truly puzzled researchers was their hybrid appearance: Greek curls, Persian robes, Semitic features. Who were these people? No records from Parthia or Rome mention Hatra's rulers in detail. Only fragments of inscriptions refer to a king of the Arabs named Sanatruk, whose reign ended mysteriously just before the city's fall. Was he defeated in battle, or did he abandon his sacred city to protect its secrets? Some believe that beneath the central temple lies a sealed chamber containing scrolls and relics from a lost priesthood devoted to solar knowledge, a hidden archive of ancient science. So far, none have been found, but the desert may be guarding them still. Throughout history, Hatra has been associated with unexplained phenomena. Locals tell stories of echoing voices, sudden gusts of wind, and strange magnetic sensations within the ruins. During the 1980s, several archaeologists reported that their compasses spun erratically near the Temple of Shamash. Some dismissed it as mere coincidence, but others saw it as evidence of a lingering energy field, perhaps remnants of the city's sacred geometry. In 2015, when parts of the site were damaged during regional conflict, locals swore that a sandstorm rose from nowhere, blanketing the area, as if nature itself was mourning. The legend of the curse of Hatra deepened, that anyone who desecrates the sun god's city will face his wrath. Today, Hatra stands as both a wonder and a warning. Though scarred by war and time, its perfect circular form still glows in the desert, a silent proof of ancient genius. Once built for both strength and spirit, it mirrored the cosmos itself. Yet its greatest mystery endures. Why did its light fade? Was it war, betrayal, or something the ancients unleashed? Now buried beneath the sands, Hatra whispers of lost gods and forgotten glory, a haunting reminder that even the brightest civilizations can vanish into silence. Rising from the sands of Darsha south of Cairo stands one of Egypt's most peculiar and enigmatic monuments, the bent pyramid built by Pharaoh Sneferu, the founding ruler of Egypt's 4th dynasty. Unlike the perfect symmetry of Giza's later pyramids, this monument bends awkwardly at its upper half, a detail that has baffled historians, architects, and mystics alike for millennia. It is both a masterpiece of experimentation and a monument of mystery, holding within its limestone shell not only the evolution of Egyptian engineering, but also the unanswered question: was Sneferu truly buried here? Do you think Pharaoh Sneferu was truly buried inside the bent pyramid, or was it merely a symbolic tomb built for his spirit? Share your thoughts in the comments below. At first glance, The bent pyramid appears as though it began its rise toward the heavens with great confidence, only to hesitate midway. The base climbs at a steep 54-degree angle, but about halfway up the slope abruptly softens to 43 degrees, giving the structure its bent silhouette. For centuries, scholars have debated whether this was an accident, a correction, or an intentional design choice. The most common explanation points to structural instability. As the pyramid's mass increased, cracks began to appear in the internal chambers, forcing builders to change the angle to prevent collapse. Others suggest that it may have been built this way from the start, perhaps to symbolize a transition between earth and heaven, the physical and spiritual realms that Sneferu sought to connect through stone. Whatever the reason, the result was unique. No other pyramid in Egypt bears such a dual slope. It is a structure caught between ambition and caution, a perfect metaphor for the early experimentation of Egypt's master builders as they sought to perfect the art of eternity. Unlike most pyramids whose smooth white casing stones were long stripped away by time and thieves, the bent pyramid still retains much of its original limestone veneer. These gleaming stones once reflected the blazing desert sun, transforming the structure into a beacon of divine light, visible for miles across the Nile Valley. To ancient Egyptians, light was sacred, the manifestation of Ra, the sun god, and the ultimate symbol of rebirth. The bent pyramid, shining like a celestial mirror, would have appeared as the physical embodiment of that belief. Modern archaeologists marvel at the preservation of this casing. It is one of the few remaining examples of how an Egyptian pyramid truly looked in its prime, radiant, flawless, and alive with sunlight. One of the strangest mysteries of the bent pyramid lies in its two separate entrances, something never seen in any other Egyptian pyramid. The first entrance is located on the northern face, about 12 meters above ground, following the royal burial tradition of the time. The second, curiously, is on the western side, almost at ground level, a completely unorthodox position. Both passages lead to two distinct burial chambers, each reinforced with cedar wood imported from Lebanon, a rare and luxurious material reserved for royal constructions. However, the two chambers are not connected, leaving archaeologists puzzled. Why would a single pyramid require two burial corridors? Some researchers believe the lower chamber was a false tomb, built to deceive tomb robbers, while Sneferu's real resting place lay in the upper chamber. Others, however, suggest that the two chambers symbolize the dual nature of the pharaoh's soul, the Ka bound to the earthly body and the Ba ascending to the divine realm. If this interpretation is true, then the bent pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a dual temple of life and death, where the two halves of the king's spirit could unite eternally in the afterlife. Inside, the bent pyramid reveals another innovation: wooden support structures embedded within the stonework. Thick cedar beams form rib-like reinforcements inside the burial chambers, giving the interior a skeletal, almost organic feel. This strange design has led some to describe the pyramid as a living being, carved from stone, a body meant to house the immortal spirit of a god-king. The cedar itself was a luxury material imported across the Mediterranean, further proof that Sneferu spared no expense in his pursuit of immortality. Even the ceiling blocks were angled to distribute pressure evenly, a technique that foreshadowed the perfection later achieved in his son Khufu's Great Pyramid at Giza. Despite its strange bent shape, Sneferu's bent pyramid is aligned almost perfectly with the four cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, with a deviation of less than half a degree. Such precision could not have been accidental. It reflects the remarkably advanced astronomical and mathematical knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. Many scholars believe the change in angle was not merely a structural correction, but a deliberate design meant to reflect the position of the sun or important stars, serving as a bridge between heaven and earth. Some modern theories even suggest that this bend functions as a spiritual lens focusing solar energy, or Earth's magnetic field as a symbol of rebirth and the pharaoh's eternal journey. Though unproven, these ideas suggest that every line and angle of the pyramid was crafted with sacred intention, forming a timeless geometric language through which the Egyptians sought to speak with the cosmos. Sneferu's reign was an age of architectural revolution. Before him, pharaohs were buried in step pyramids, grand but primitive. Under his command, Egypt experimented with true pyramidal forms. The bent pyramid was the second in this grand trilogy, following the failed Meidum pyramid, which collapsed during or shortly after construction. After the bent pyramid, Sneferu commissioned a third, the red pyramid, also in Dashur. This time the angle was reduced to a safe 43 degrees throughout, producing the first true smooth-sided pyramid in history. The lessons learned from the bent pyramid directly led to that success. In this sense, the bent pyramid stands as a bridge between imperfection and perfection, a monument born of trial, error, and genius. Here lies the greatest enigma of all. Despite decades of exploration, no sarcophagus, no mummy, and no burial artifacts have ever been found inside the bent pyramid. The tombs are empty, the walls bare. For a monument built with such grandeur, the absence of a royal burial is both startling and suspicious. One theory holds that Sneferu was never entombed here at all. Perhaps after realizing structural issues during construction, he ordered his burial to be moved to the newly built Red Pyramid, which offered greater stability. Indeed, ancient graffiti found nearby refers to the Red Pyramid as Sneferu is shining, implying that it was his final resting place. Yet others believe that the bent pyramid served a symbolic rather than physical purpose. It may have been designed as a cenotaph, a spiritual tomb meant to house the pharaoh's K, his vital essence, while his physical body rested elsewhere. The two chambers and dual entrances would then make perfect sense, one for the living king ascending to the heavens, and one for the spirit descending into the underworld. Still, a darker possibility remains that the bent pyramid was plundered in antiquity, and Sneferu's remains were lost forever. The emptiness of its chambers might not signify an unfinished tomb, but rather a violated sanctuary, its sacred contents stolen or destroyed thousands of years ago. Adding to the mystery, ground-penetrating radar surveys have revealed anomalous voids beneath the pyramid's foundation, hinting at hidden passages or undiscovered chambers. Egyptologists continue to debate whether these might conceal the pharaoh's true burial chamber, still untouched beneath the desert floor. The bent pyramid, it seems, guards its secrets well and may yet hold the greatest discovery of all. Today, the bent pyramid still stands silently in the Dasha Desert, a witness to a turning point in ancient Egyptian architecture. Though imperfect in form, it symbolizes the journey of a divine king reaching toward the sun, reflecting the fragile boundary between life and eternity. Sneferu's name endures as the great builder pharaoh, the man who laid the foundation for the wonders of Giza. Yet the mystery remains: does he rest within the Red Pyramid, or still lie hidden beneath the bent pyramid, guarded by time and the desert sands? Hidden beneath the tranquil fields of Shanxi province lies one of the most enigmatic royal tombs ever built, the Hanangling Mausoleum, final resting place of Emperor Jing of Han 157-141 BCE and his empress Wang Ji. At first glance, it appears modest compared to the colossal grandeur of the first emperor's mausoleum in Xi'an. But those who have ventured into its underground world know that Hanangling is different, subtle, intricate, and filled with mysteries that seem to whisper of a lost science. Beneath its silence may lie the remnants of a technological enigma, thousands of years ahead of its time. What do you think was Hanangling? Just a royal tomb? Or could it have been an ancient machine built with forgotten technology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. Built over 2 millennia ago, the Hanangling complex covers nearly 20 square kilometers, designed as a complete microcosm of Emperor Jing's empire. Its architects followed the ancient cosmological concept of heaven and earth in harmony, aligning the tomb with precise astronomical and geomantic coordinates. The emperor's mound represents heaven, the empress's earth. Together, their positions reflect the yin-yang duality and eternal balance even in death. Subterranean tunnels stretch in 4 directions, like arteries feeding a living organism. Dozens of burial pits form an underground map of the empire: granaries, armories, stables, and workshops. Yet beneath this spiritual geometry lies something more perplexing: signs of advanced engineering that should not have existed in the 2nd century BCE. When excavations began in the 1990s, archaeologists discovered over 50,000 terracotta figurines, each about 60 centimeters tall, an army of tiny soldiers, servants, musicians, and animals. Unlike the life-sized warriors of Qin Shi Huang, these figures possess an eerie fragility. Many lack arms or heads, suggesting their missing parts were once made from wood cloth, or perhaps other perishable materials. Some researchers even speculate that these materials may have been designed to move marionettes powered by simple mechanisms or ritual energy. It sounds fantastical, yet traces of tiny metal joints and sockets have been found on certain figurines, primitive hinges that seem to serve no decorative purpose. Were these early attempts at movable statues or symbolic constructs of animation a way to give the dead empire life in the afterworld? Unlike the towering stone chambers of the Qin and Shang dynasties, the Hanangling tomb was built not for grandeur, but for endurance. Its heart lies beneath layers of densely compacted earth, a feat of ancient engineering that has kept the structure intact for more than 2 millennia. The builders seem to understand the science of preservation. Their design included hidden vents and pressure-balancing channels, maintaining a remarkably stable environment of temperature and humidity that protected fragile silkwood and bone. Yet what truly confounds modern researchers lies below the emperor's chamber. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a mysterious magnetic zone, its readings forming perfect circular patterns invisible to the naked eye. These signals do not correspond to any known burial artifact or construction material. This is where the mystery deepens. When a Chinese and international research team conducted electromagnetic scans in the early 2000s, they found an intense magnetic field emanating from a depth of nearly 30 meters under the main mound. The formation appeared neither natural nor random. Some scientists believe it may come from large quantities of iron or bronze, possibly used to stabilize the structure. Yet the field's precise geometry, symmetrical and oriented north-south, led others to suggest something far stranger. One hypothesis proposes that the Han engineers may have constructed a geomagnetic compass beneath the tomb, aligning the emperor's soul with the cosmic north. The Han dynasty was known for its early experimentation with magnetism. The world's first recorded lodestone compass dates to this period. Could the builders have buried an enormous magnetic core to guide the spirit through the heavens? Other researchers noticed traces of metallic powder fused into the soil, possibly remnants of mercury or alloys. Ancient Chinese texts mention mercury as a substance of immortality. It flowed through rivers in the first emperor's tomb, symbolizing the celestial seas. Yet the magnetic readings at Hanangling are different. Localized, consistent, and mathematically patterned. Even more puzzling are the faint radar echoes of circular conduits, connecting the magnetic zones to the burial chamber. If true, these could have functioned as energy channels, perhaps designed to preserve the tomb's spiritual equilibrium, or in modern terms, its electromagnetic balance. Some modern engineers studying the site remarked that the arrangement resembles a primitive capacitor system able to store and discharge electrical potential through conductive earth layers. While no physical machinery has been unearthed, the magnetic precision of the tomb's structure hints that its builders may have known far more about geomagnetic fields and energy orientation than history credits them for. It's a level of planning that suggests ancient Chinese engineers combined religious cosmology with an intuitive understanding of natural physics, transforming the tomb into a living machine of the afterlife. If this interpretation holds even partially true, Hanangling might be the earliest known example of an electromagnetically aligned burial complex, centuries before the compass became a navigational tool. Some argue that the alignment was purely symbolic, but the fact remains the entire complex points almost perfectly to true north, not magnetic north, implying that its designers had methods of celestial observation of remarkable accuracy. Adding to the intrigue, soil analysis revealed unidentified metallic compounds resistant to corrosion, which some suspect could have been created through alloying processes lost to time. Could these have been intentional layers of protection or primitive conductors to channel spiritual energy? These questions open a new frontier in our understanding of ancient Chinese engineering, one that blends ritual science and spirituality in ways modern minds struggle to separate. Perhaps the strangest aspect of all is that ancient chronicles are nearly silent about Hanangling's construction. No detailed records survive, describing the workforce, the rituals, or the materials used. The Book of Han mentions Emperor Jing's reign extensively, but not a word about the tomb itself. Was this an act of secrecy, meant to conceal forbidden technology or sacred knowledge? Some scholars suggest the tomb's secrecy was a deliberate choice. The emperor may have ordered his architects to keep the techniques hidden, fearing that others might misuse them. Others believe the records were erased by later dynasties who saw such hybrid science ritual practices as heresy. Whatever the reason, the result is the same: a silence that deepens the mystery. Local villagers have long spoken of faint blue glows appearing around the site on stormy nights. Scientists explain these as phosphorescent minerals reacting to moisture and pressure. Yet the legend persists that the light is the emperor's pulse, a sign that his spirit machine still hums beneath the soil. Whether folklore or not, it perfectly captures what Hanangling represents: a bridge between science and myth, between the measurable and the mystical. Today, Hanangling stands as one of China's most remarkable underground museums. Visitors walk on transparent floors above silent rows of miniature warriors, but that is only the surface. Beneath lies the true mystery: precise geometry, quiet magnetism, and a design that feels almost alive. More than a royal tomb, Hanangling is a code written in earth and metal, a bridge between science and faith. Crafted 2,000 years ago, it leaves us wondering, did the ancients truly grasp the powers of nature, magnetism, energy direction, long before we did? Nestled deep within the rugged cliffs of the Azat River Gorge in Armenia lies a place where earth and spirit seem to merge into one: the Geghard Monastery, a structure so extraordinary that it defies not only time, but also human comprehension. Listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, Geghard is often described as a monastery born from stone, and for good reason. Entire chambers, chapels, and tombs are not built, but carved directly into solid volcanic rock, creating a sanctuary that feels less constructed than revealed as though ancient hands merely uncovered what had always been sleeping inside the mountain. Yet behind its haunting beauty and religious significance, Geghard conceals a mystery that continues to puzzle historians and archaeologists alike who truly built this place. What do you think? Was Geghard truly the work of early Christian monks, or could it have been built upon the remnants of an ancient forgotten civilization? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you believe. From a distance, Geghard appears to grow out of the mountain itself. The grey basalt walls blend seamlessly with the surrounding cliffs, and the domes seem like natural extensions of the rock face. When you step inside, the air grows colder, the light dimmer, and the sound of your footsteps transforms into a resonant echo that lingers far too long to be natural. The entire interior is carved by hand pillars, archways, stairs, even the intricate cross motifs on the walls, all hewn with mathematical precision into the living rock. Armenian tradition holds that the monastery dates back to the 4th century, to the earliest days of Christianity in Armenia. It was supposedly founded by Gregory the Illuminator, who brought Christianity to the nation. But the oldest surviving parts of Geghard, the subterranean chapels and tombs, may predate this era by centuries, perhaps even millennia. Their style, symmetry, and acoustic perfection are not merely religious expressions, they hint at knowledge that exceeds medieval architecture. The name Geghardavank means monastery of the spear, because it once held the holy lance, the weapon said to have pierced the side of Jesus during the crucifixion. The relic was believed to have been brought to Armenia by the Apostle Thaddeus, becoming a symbol of divine power and protection. Whether fact or legend, this story made Geghard a sacred place of pilgrimage, where faith, light, and shadow merge within the heart of the stone. Step into one of the inner chambers of Geghard, and you might believe you've entered a world designed for sound itself. Whisper a prayer, and your voice returns to you, transformed, magnified, layered, and suspended in the air, like a chant from invisible monks. Researchers have recorded near-perfect acoustic resonance in these caves, with frequencies aligning so precisely that they seem intentionally engineered. Some scholars propose that the ancient builders possessed an intuitive understanding of sound wave behavior, shaping each room to enhance spiritual rituals. Others believe that the resonance was a mystical side effect of devotion, that in trying to shape a place worthy of God, they inadvertently built a sound temple where human voices could mimic the harmony of heaven. Whatever the case, the result is a phenomenon that modern architects have yet to replicate with such natural precision. Light enters Geghard not through grand windows, but through carefully cut shafts and cracks in the mountain. At specific times of the year, the sunbeam falls exactly onto certain altars, crosses or carvings illuminating them in a golden glow, while the rest of the chamber remains cloaked in darkness. Such precision cannot be accidental. Many believe the architects used astronomical alignments, perhaps to mark religious festivals or celestial events. In this sense, Geghard becomes more than a monastery. It is also a calendar of light, a solar compass hidden within a mountain. Each beam of light that pierces the stone seems to remind visitors of the divine presence guiding the natural world, and perhaps of the ancient astronomers who mastered this interplay between sun and faith. Despite decades of research, Geghard's full layout remains unknown. Several passages are blocked by rubble, sealed with ancient stone doors, or buried beneath layers of collapsed rock. Scans have suggested that there may be deeper chambers still untouched, possibly connected to underground water channels or ritual spaces. Some historians think these were simple burial rooms for monks and noble families. Others speculate more boldly that Geghard was built upon an older pre-Christian sacred site, one that Armenian pagans used for worship of mountain and water deities. Certain rock carvings and geometric symbols, not typical of Christian iconography, lend weight to this theory. If true, the monastery we see today may only be the latest incarnation of a much older tradition, one passed down from an unknown civilization that revered both the earth and the heavens. Surrounding Geghard is the magnificent Azat Gorge, a landscape that feels almost purposefully chosen for isolation. The steep cliffs, wild vegetation, and roaring river below create a sense of being cut off from the rest of the world, a natural boundary between the mundane and the divine. Pilgrims often described their journey to Geghard as a passage between worlds, leaving behind human noise to enter a realm of silence and eternity. In Armenian culture, mountains have always symbolized divine presence. To carve a monastery into one was not merely an act of devotion, but a statement that God and nature are one inseparable and eternal. And now we arrive at the greatest question of all: who were the real builders of Geghard? While official records credit early Christian monks of the 4th century, the physical evidence raises doubts. The smoothness of the inner chambers, the impossible symmetry of the domes, carved entirely by hand, and the advanced understanding of acoustics and light all point to a level of skill that surpasses known technology of that era. There are no records of the tools used, no architectural blueprints, no inscriptions naming the master builders. The monastery seems to have appeared complete and perfect, like something shaped by divine will or forgotten science. Some Armenian historians have dared to suggest that Geghard might stand upon the ruins of a far older temple complex, perhaps pre-Christian, perhaps even prehistorical. This idea is not without precedent. Across Armenia, many sacred Christian sites were built atop pagan shrines, reusing ancient holy ground. The placement of Geghard, halfway between earth and sky, embedded in the mountain, aligns with ancient Indo-European traditions of Axis Mundi, the cosmic pillar connecting the human realm to the divine. If this theory is true, then the original creators of Geghard were not monks, but keepers of an ancient spiritual science, a civilization that understood geometry, sound, and astronomy as pathways to the sacred. Their legacy was absorbed into Christian architecture, reinterpreted through faith, but still echoing the wisdom of those who came before. Could it be that the monks who later occupied the site merely expanded what already existed, carving chapels around older caverns that were once used for rituals long forgotten? The unanswered question of who built Geghard continues to inspire both spiritual and scientific curiosity. Every strike of the chisel, every line carved into stone, feels like part of a language we no longer understand, one that speaks in vibration, shadow, and silence. Perhaps that is why Geghard still draws visitors who seek not answers, but experiences, to feel what ancient builders felt when they shaped the mountain into a vessel of eternity. Over 700 years have passed, yet the Geghard Monastery still stands firm against time, surviving earthquakes, wars, and the fall of empires. The place carries a supernatural stillness, as if the mountain itself guards it. Every year, thousands come to pray, listen to the haunting echoes, or simply feel the silent heartbeat of the stone, as though the mountain's spirit still lives. Perhaps Geghard was not built by humans alone, but born from earth and faith, a sacred bond long forgotten by time. In the very center of Rome, where glass towers now scrape the sky, and the echoes of the empire have faded into traffic and noise, there rises a silent mound of stone and earth. At first glance, it looks like a forgotten hill, but beneath that calm surface lies one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world, the tomb of Augustus. This was once the proud heart of imperial Rome, a place where the first emperor sought to carve his immortality into the soil of the eternal city. For centuries, it towered as a symbol of divine power, and yet time has turned it into a whisper of its former glory. Who built it? Why was it designed unlike any other monument of its age? Beneath its weathered stones, the answers may still be waiting, buried with the emperor who tried to outlive history itself. Do you think Augustus deliberately hid the identities of his builders, or is it just a mystery erased by time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In 28 BCE, Octavian, soon to become Caesar Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, ordered the construction of his mausoleum on the northern edge of the Campus Martius. He was only in his 30s, at the height of his political power, after defeating Antony and Cleopatra. Why would such a young and victorious ruler build his own tomb? For Augustus, this was not merely a grave, it was a declaration of immortality. He was reshaping Rome from a republic torn by civil war into a divine empire ruled by a single man. His tomb would be the physical embodiment of that transformation, a message carved into the earth itself. The emperor will outlive his age. His power will never die. At its completion, the Mausoleum of Augustus was the largest tomb ever built in the Roman world. The structure was a perfect circle, over 90 meters in diameter and more than 40 meters tall, constructed of brick and tough stone, covered with layers of earth and greenery. To those approaching from the Via Flaminia, it appeared as a green hill rising from the plain, both a natural landscape and a man-made mountain. Inside, concentric corridors led to the central burial chamber, a cylindrical heart of stone, where Augustus's ashes would rest in a golden urn. Surrounding the base were white marble statues, bronze inscriptions, and two towering obelisk pillars brought from Egypt. Atop the mound stood a bronze statue of Augustus himself, gazing toward the heavens, half man, half god. This fusion of Roman engineering with Egyptian symbolism was no coincidence. It was political theater on a cosmic scale. By echoing the pyramid form and solar imagery of Egypt, Augustus aligned himself with the pharaoh's kings who claimed divine birth and eternal rule. After Augustus's death in 14 CE, his ashes were placed in the inner sanctum of the mausoleum. Over the following decades, members of the Julio-Claudian family joined him: Livia Tiberius Caligula, Claudius Agrippina the Elder, and others. The tomb of Augustus thus became a sacred genealogical center, not only a family grave, but the physical heart of the empire's divine lineage. Yet with time, that sacredness eroded. As new emperors rose and fell, the mausoleum lost its purpose. The marble was stripped, statues melted down, the obelisks removed. During the Middle Ages, the monument was converted into a fortress by the Colonna family, its once holy walls pierced with battlements. Later, it served as a garden, an amphitheater, even a concert hall. Centuries passed, and the tomb of the world's most powerful man became a ruin, swallowed by the very city he had built. Few people realized that the Mausoleum of Augustus was not an isolated structure. It was part of a grand celestial alignment that stretched across the Campus Martius. Not far from the tomb, Augustus erected a massive Egyptian obelisk that functioned as the gnomon, the shadow-casting pillar of a colossal solar clock known as the Solarium Augusti. Every year on September 23rd, the emperor's birthday, the shadow of the obelisk would stretch perfectly toward the entrance of his tomb. The message was clear and divine. The sun itself bowed to Augustus. He was not merely Rome's ruler, he was the axis of time, the center of the cosmic order. Even in death, the emperor would be aligned with the heavens. His tomb was not simply a monument to his body, but a machine of eternity, designed to synchronize man, sun, and empire into one eternal system. When archaeologists entered the tomb in the early 20th century, they expected to find at least fragments, urns, inscriptions, or relics. But there was nothing. The burial chambers were empty. No ashes, no gold, no remains of the imperial family. Had the tomb been looted during Rome's chaotic centuries of invasions, or had the urns been secretly removed, perhaps hidden elsewhere to protect them? Some believe that the ashes of Augustus were quietly transferred to the Vatican area when the pagan symbols of the empire were purged by early Christians. Others claim they were destroyed during medieval reconstruction. Whatever the truth, the disappearance of the emperor's remains left behind a haunting paradox. The man who once ruled the known world now vanished completely from it, leaving only a hollow monument in his name. And yet the greatest mystery of the tomb of Augustus does not lie in what was lost, but in what was never recorded. Despite being one of the most ambitious constructions of the ancient world, no ancient text mentions the architect, the engineers, or the artisans who built it. Augustus himself wrote in his Res Gestae Divi Augusti, the record of his achievements, that he built his own mausoleum, but he never revealed who designed or oversaw it. Was this deliberate? Some historians suggest that Augustus wanted to take full symbolic ownership of the structure to erase the identity of its creators so that the tomb would belong to him alone, an extension of his divine image. Others propose that foreign architects, perhaps Greek or Egyptian, were secretly involved. The mausoleum's circular plan, earthen covering, and axial symmetry differ greatly from traditional Roman funerary architecture. Its resemblance to Etruscan tumuli or Hellenistic royal tombs hints at a complex fusion of traditions, a blend so advanced that it seems to anticipate later imperial designs like Hadrian's Mausoleum Castel Sant'Angelo. Could it be that Augustus employed master builders from Alexandria, inheritors of Egypt's ancient engineering wisdom, to realize his cosmic vision, or did he rely on anonymous Roman geniuses whose names were erased from history by the emperor's desire for total control? The question remains unanswered. Not a single inscription, mosaic, or relief has ever revealed the builders' names. The monument in its perfection seems almost authorless, as if it emerged from the will of Augustus himself, rather than human hands. The anonymity of the builders might have served another purpose. To the Roman people, the sight of the enormous tomb rising from the plains was a statement of eternal rule. Every traveler entering Rome from the north would first behold the mausoleum of Augustus towering above the cityscape like a second sun. It announced that the emperor's presence transcended life and death. By erasing the identity of the builders, Augustus ensured that only his name would echo through time. The tomb was not an architectural masterpiece signed by an artist. It was a cosmic seal bearing only one inscription: Augustus. It is perhaps the ultimate act of political art to construct something so vast, so enduring, and yet so silent about those who made it. After nearly 2 millennia of neglect, the tomb of Augustus had become little more than a grassy mound in modern Rome. But in 2021, it was restored and reopened after more than 80 years. Visitors can now walk through the ancient corridors where light falls upon cold brick walls, feeling the breath of history and the dream of an emperor. Yet the mystery remains: who truly designed this monument? Was it a forgotten Roman architect, or the trace of ancient knowledge that Augustus intended to keep forever hidden? The tomb of Augustus is not just an ancient ruin. It is a dialogue between ambition and time, between the human will to be remembered and the silence of oblivion. Every stone carries the echo of power and the mystery of the unseen hands that built it. Despite all we know about Augustus, his empire, his reforms, his victories, one question remains unanswered: who truly built his tomb? Perhaps that is Augustus's final triumph. 2,000 years later, his monument still stands, but the names of its builders have vanished, their silence now part of his immortality. Hidden beneath the bustling streets and sacred stones of Jerusalem lies a colossal void that very few have truly seen, a labyrinthine world of shadow and silence called the Cave of Zedekiah. Known in Hebrew as Meritt-Neath and in Arabic as Migharat al-Khitan, the Cotton Cave, it stretches beneath the northern walls of the Old City, not far from the Damascus Gate. Though it has been rediscovered, mapped, and partially explored over centuries, its true origins remain one of Jerusalem's most enduring and confounding mysteries. The cave is immense, more than 230 meters long and 30 meters deep, an underground quarry large enough to hide cathedrals within it. The air is cool, and still the limestone walls, glimmering faintly with moisture. Visitors who descend into its heart often describe the eerie sensation of stepping back into another epoch, one where hands carved stone by torchlight and chisels rang like ritual instruments. Archaeologists have identified it as an ancient stone quarry, the source of the white Meliki limestone used to build many of Jerusalem's earliest monuments, including some believe Solomon's first temple itself. Yet even as the physical facts seem clear, the cave refuses to yield its full story. Who first carved it? When was it abandoned? And why do the marks of its making feel older, stranger, and more deliberate than simple quarry work should? Who do you think truly created the Cave of Zedekiah, the Phoenicians, the ancient Israelites, or a long-lost civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The origin of the Cave of Zedekiah has been debated for centuries, with each generation offering a new theory and none able to close the case. Some scholars argue it was first opened by the Phoenicians, the master builders and traders from the coast of Lebanon during the 8th or 9th century BCE. Others insist it predates even them, linking the cave to Canaanite or early Israelite construction phases. The Phoenician hypothesis stems from the remarkable precision of the quarrying marks, parallel grooves, rounded niches, and smooth surfaces that suggest the use of advanced bronze or iron chisels tools of a level beyond the typical craftsmanship known from early Judahite masons. Similar tool patterns have been found in Phoenician port cities like Tyre and Sidon, where their builders cut monumental limestone for temples and harbor walls. If true, this connection would radically reshape our understanding of early Jerusalem, suggesting that the first temple, long attributed solely to Hebrew labor under King Solomon, may have been constructed with the expertise and engineering of Phoenician artisans, perhaps the same guilds that worked under King Hiram of Tyre. This would not only explain the shared architectural language between Phoenician and Jerusalemite structures, but also account for the extraordinary quality of the Meliki stone, fine-grained uniform, and nearly luminescent in torchlight. However, other researchers push the timeline even further back. They point to traces of older chambers long sealed within the bedrock, where the chisel marks appear to have eroded beyond recognition. These could belong to an even earlier civilization, perhaps one that understood the natural fractures of the limestone ridge and began exploiting them before written history. The deeper one goes, the more the stone seems to whisper of lost centuries. Among the strangest features of the cave are its blocked corridors and unfinished tunnels. In several places, the quarrying abruptly stops, as if the workers fled mid-task. Some of the walls show evidence of controlled fire, blackened surfaces, and cracked stone, as though intense heat had been used to widen the openings. But for what purpose? Fire quarrying was known in ancient times, yet the placement of these burn marks often defies practical explanation. Even more enigmatic are the hollowed alcoves that appear in symmetrical patterns, along the eastern section of the cave. They could have served as tool stations, altars, or even ritual niches. A few are positioned in geometric alignments that correspond roughly to the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, suggesting a deliberate design rather than random excavation. Could the cave have once served not only as a quarry, but as a ceremonial or symbolic space, a kind of subterranean temple linked to the divine act of creation through stone? Adding to the puzzle, geologists note that parts of the cave's ceiling have collapsed in a way that seems artificially induced, as if someone deliberately sealed off access to deeper chambers. There are oral traditions claiming that the lowest section of the cave extends under the Temple Mount, connecting with secret passageways long forbidden to explore. If true, the quarry might have doubled as a network of emergency escape routes or sacred storehouses for the city's priestly elite. The Cave of Zedekiah takes its name from King Zedekiah, the last ruler of Judah, who, according to legend, used a secret tunnel beneath Jerusalem to escape Babylon's siege in 586 BCE. The passage was said to lead toward Jericho, but he was captured and blinded. Though no proof has ever been found, stories persist of a hidden section deep below the Judean hills, a sealed tunnel that might still conceal the king's final path. In the 19th century, the cave was rediscovered by Western explorers and soon captured the imagination of the Freemasons, who saw in its depths a perfect symbol of Solomon's wisdom and divine geometry. For them, the cave was not merely a quarry, but the birthplace of sacred architecture, the womb from which the stones of the Temple of Solomon emerged. Freemason ceremonies were held inside the cave as early as 1868, and the walls still bear inscriptions, symbols of compasses and squares, and initials carved by their members. The cave thus became not only an archaeological site, but a spiritual emblem linking modern secret societies to the ancient mystery of temple building. Despite surveys, laser scans, and geological mapping, parts of the Cave of Zedekiah remain inaccessible. Thick debris, unstable ceilings, and sealed passages have prevented modern teams from reaching the lowest levels. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed anomalies, voids, and cavities, suggesting there may be more chambers beyond the known quarry. Could these be natural extensions, or were they deliberately filled in to hide something? Theories range from the practical abandoned quarry sections to the sensational caches of temple treasure scrolls, or even the long-lost Ark of the Covenant, hidden away before the Babylonians breached the city. No conclusive evidence has ever been found, yet the allure persists. Every era seems to rediscover the cave anew, each explorer convinced that the truth lies just beyond the next sealed wall. At the heart of this labyrinthine history lies one haunting question: who first carved the Cave of Zedekiah, and why? If it was indeed a Phoenician quarry, it testifies to a sophisticated collaboration between two ancient kingdoms united by faith and stone. If it predates them, perhaps we are glimpsing the work of an even older civilization, one that understood Jerusalem's geology intimately long before it became sacred ground. Some researchers inspired by comparative architecture point to the similarity between the cave's patterns and the underground quarries beneath Baalbek or Byblos, both Phoenician-linked sites. Could these represent a lost network of quarrying traditions spanning the Levant? Others argue that the alignment of certain chambers with celestial points hints at an astronomical or ritual function, transforming the cave into an underground mirror of the heavens, a negative temple carved not toward the sky, but into the earth. Whatever its origin, the craftsmanship remains astonishing. The straightness of its corridors, the smoothness of its walls, and the precision of its cuts would have required an organized labor force, careful planning, and an understanding of geology centuries ahead of its time. Deep inside the cave of Zedekiah, the air feels heavy with the weight of time. Every mark in the stone whispers of ancient hands and forgotten rituals. It is where myth history and geology merge, not built for use, but to endure. Whether a quarry, a refuge, or a temple, it stands as a timeless bridge between humankind and the stone that shaped its world. Beneath Jerusalem's sacred hills, it still keeps the silent truth of its own creation. Amid the white-capped waves of the Atlantic Ocean, about 12 kilometers off the coast of Ireland, rises a massive and imposing rock, Skeleig Michael, or Shíl Michael in Old Irish. The island looks like a mountain emerging straight from the sea, with sheer cliffs and a peak more than 200 meters above the waves. There is little sign of life except for the cries of seabirds and the constant roar of the ocean. Yet more than 400 years ago, a group of monks chose this desolate rock as their home, a decision that continues to puzzle historians today. No one truly understands why they chose such a hostile, isolated place to live, pray, and seek God. Do you think the monks chose Skeleig Michael purely out of faith, or was there something mysterious about the island that drew them there? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Skeleig Michael is not a friendly place. The winds are fierce enough to knock a man down. Waves several meters high crash endlessly against the cliffs, and there is only one narrow, twisting path, carved by hand into the mountainside. In winter, no ship can reach it, making the island completely cut off from the world for months at a time. And yet, in this seemingly uninhabitable place, Irish monks of the 6th-8th centuries built a monastery, a triumph of endurance and faith. They constructed small stone huts shaped like beehives known as clochans, stacking flat stones without any mortar. The walls tilt slightly to resist the wind. The domed roofs tighten to keep out the rain. The entire complex feels like a harmonious fusion between humanity and nature, both primitive and profoundly elegant. This is the question that has baffled archaeologists, historians, and theologians for centuries. Why did the monks choose Skeleig Michael, a barren island with no fresh water, no arable soil, and constant danger, as their place of prayer and survival? The simple answer might be because of faith. But beneath that, there are deeper, more symbolic meanings. In the 6th century, Ireland was one of the spiritual centers of early Christianity in Europe. Irish monks believed that abandoning the material world and living in solitude and hardship was the truest path toward divine closeness. They called this way of life peregrinatio pro Christo, a pilgrimage for Christ, not toward a specific destination, but a renunciation of all things worldly in pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. Skeleig Michael, standing alone amid the endless ocean, perfectly embodied that ideal. It was a place devoid of human distraction, leaving only the sky, the sea, and the stone, the three primordial elements of existence. There, one could feel the immensity of creation and the smallness of the self, a state the monks believed made it possible to hear the voice of God more clearly than anywhere else on earth. Some scholars have suggested that the monks chose Skeleig Michael for its symbolic position. It sits on the western edge of Ireland, and in medieval Christian thought, the west symbolized the boundary between the human world and the realm of the soul. The sun sets in the west like a spirit, departing the body, crossing into eternity. Thus, Skeleig Michael may have been chosen not only for its physical isolation, but for its spiritual significance, a place where humanity draws near the gates of heaven. However, not everyone believes Skeleig Michael's story begins with Christianity. Some archaeologists and folklorists suspect that the island was already sacred long before the arrival of Christian monks. The ancient Celts, who worshipped natural deities, believed that lonely islands rising from the sea were thresholds between the human world and that of the gods. According to legend, Skeleig Michael may once have been a ritual site for Celtic druids where they performed ceremonies to maintain harmony between earth, water, and sky. Therefore, the monks' choice of the island may not have been purely random. Many researchers think they built their monastery upon an already sacred landscape, continuing the site's spiritual legacy, transforming a pagan sanctuary into a Christian symbol of divine devotion. On Skeleig Michael, there is nothing but rock, wind, and sea. Yet this profound silence made it a perfect monastery for contemplation and prayer. The monks survived on rainwater, seabirds, seals, and small amounts of food brought from the mainland. They had no bells, no choir, no elaborate rituals, only the howling wind and the rhythmic crash of the waves, echoing like eternal prayers. Day after day, they climbed the steep stairway to the upper peak, known as the Upper Monastery, more than 200 meters above sea level. There, among clouds that rarely lifted the rising sun, turned the ocean into gold, a vision that must have felt like a gateway between heaven and earth. Perhaps in those moments, they found something the modern world has forgotten: a complete harmony between humanity, nature, and faith. What amazes modern archaeologists and engineers most about Skeleig Michael is not just the monks' choice to live in isolation, but the architectural miracle that transcends the limits of their time. On a barren rock mountain, with no mortar, no machinery, and no paths to transport materials, monks from the 6th, 8th centuries carried stones weighing dozens of kilograms, climbing hundreds of steep steps, and meticulously stacked them by hand. The result, beehive-shaped stone huts that have stood firm for over 400 years, has withstood Atlantic storms and the erosion of time, a feat even modern architecture struggles to match. Experts have found that the stones were arranged with aerodynamic precision and anti-vibration principles, ensuring the entire structure's stability against natural forces. Such near-perfect craftsmanship raises a haunting question: did the monks inherit some lost ancient knowledge of construction? Or was it simply the unshakable power of faith that enabled them to achieve the impossible on this lonely rock in the sea? Today, many visitors to Skeleig Michael report feeling a strange, serene energy. Some describe a sensation of weightlessness, peace, and timelessness. Others claim to hear faint singing or chanting at night, even when no one else is on the island. Some geomancers believe Skeleig Michael lies on a ley line, one of the Earth's supposed energy pathways connecting ancient sacred sites across Europe from Stonehenge to Mont Saint-Michel. While this remains unproven, it adds yet another layer to the island's mystery. The island was named after Saint Michael, the archangel, the warrior of light, who defends souls from darkness. The name itself feels fitting: a place poised between light and shadow, between the earthly and the divine. Today, Skeleig Michael is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, both an archaeological wonder and a wildlife sanctuary. Thousands of seabirds such as puffins, fulmars, and gannets nest among the cliffs, turning the island into a living kingdom of wind and wings. Access is strictly limited, only a few hundred visitors per day during certain months, and no shops, no facilities, only stone and sky. It is as if nature itself still guards the island's secret, allowing humans only a fleeting glimpse before sending them away. Skeleig Michael stands as a symbol of humanity's longing to transcend its limits, a place where faith, endurance, and nature converge. In our modern age of noise and comfort, the island reminds us that there exists another kind of strength, the strength of silence, devotion, and spiritual connection beyond the material world. The monks did not choose Skeleig Michael because it was easy, but because its hardship brought them closer to the divine. Perhaps that is the eternal message whispered by this island across the waves for over 1,000 years. Sometimes to find the light, one must first step into the heart of darkness. When archaeologists entered the depths of Temple 13 in Palenque, they expected a simple royal tomb, but what they found defied all imagination. Hidden for over 12 centuries was a stone chamber filled with red dust that shimmered like blood. Inside the sarcophagus lay a woman's skeleton, her body and jewels covered in Cineabar, the deadly pigment of power and immortality. Her face was concealed by a jade mosaic mask, her bones glowing faintly crimson in the dark. To the Maya, she was sacred, perhaps a queen priestess or goddess. To us, she is the Red Queen. Yet behind that name lies a question that still haunts science today. Who was she? A consort of Pakal the Great, a forgotten ruler, or a divine being erased from history? Her tomb remains silent, but the mystery endures. What do you think about the Red Queen's true identity? Was she Pakal's lost queen, a forgotten ruler, or a mysterious goddess erased from history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your theory. In 1994, Mexican archaeologist Martha Cuevas and her team were exploring the inner corridors of Temple 13, a lesser-known structure adjacent to the Grand Temple of the Inscriptions, the burial site of King Pakal the Great. When they stumbled upon a sealed staircase descending into darkness, they knew they were standing at the threshold of something monumental. After carefully removing layers of rubble and limestone, they entered a chamber untouched since around 700 AD. The air was still heavy with centuries of silence. At the center stood a massive sarcophagus carved from limestone, surrounded by funerary offerings and 3 skeletons, likely sacrificial attendants meant to accompany the deceased into the afterlife. When the lid was lifted, the archaeologists were met with a vision both terrifying and magnificent, the skeleton of a woman entirely covered in a vivid red powder. The dust clung to the bones, to the jade ornaments, and to the walls themselves, staining everything it touched with the color of blood. The powder was identified as Cineabar mercuric sulfide, a substance revered by the Maya as a symbol of life power and regeneration. Thus began the legend of the Red Queen. Her burial was lavish. Surrounding her were necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and rings made of jade pearls and obsidian materials reserved only for the highest elite. Most striking of all was a mosaic jade mask assembled from delicate green tiles that once covered her face. Each piece was perfectly cut, suggesting that only the most skilled artisans of the royal court could have crafted it. Even in death, her body had been transformed into an offering, a sacred vessel meant to bridge the mortal and divine realms. The Cineabar, though beautiful, is a toxic compound, slowly releasing mercury vapor over time. The Maya may have known of its dangers, yet they used it deliberately, perhaps to preserve the body or to imbue the deceased with the essence of the sacred red, the color of the rising sun, and human blood, both of which symbolized rebirth. But who was she, this woman who merited such splendor, such danger, such reverence? When news of the discovery broke, scholars immediately began searching for clues in the annals of Maya history. The proximity of her tomb to that of King Kinich Janab Pakal, one of the most powerful rulers of the classic Maya era, was too significant to ignore. Was the Red Queen Pakal's consort, Lady Zakbuajar, the queen who once ruled beside him? Or could she have been his mother, the matriarch who ensured his divine lineage? Some even speculated she was a priestess or oracle, a woman whose influence was spiritual rather than political, enshrined within the temple as a guardian between worlds. To answer these questions, scientists turn to modern tools, DNA testing, and isotope analysis. In 2012, nearly 2 decades after the discovery, researchers extracted samples from the Red Queen's teeth and compared them to the remains of King Pakal. The results were both illuminating and perplexing. No genetic match was found. She was not Pakal's mother, nor his direct blood relative. Yet her age at death, between 50 and 60 years old, matched that of Lady Zakbu Ajau Pakal's wife. Her burial wealth and the proximity of her tomb to his suggested that she held the status of a queen, perhaps even the primary consort. But without inscriptions, the sacred glyphs that the Maya carved to immortalize their rulers, her identity remained unnamed. The chamber contained no hieroglyphic panels, no royal emblems, no dedication texts. It was as if history itself had chosen to erase her name, leaving behind only her red shadow. Some archaeologists suggested this anonymity might not be accidental. In certain Maya traditions, names were believed to hold power. Erasing them could protect the soul from harm or conceal forbidden truths. Perhaps the Red Queen's identity was deliberately veiled, her role too sacred or too dangerous to record. The mystery deepened as scholars examined her burial context. Unlike Pakal's grand tomb with its cosmic carvings and hieroglyphic biography, the Red Queen's chamber was intimate, almost ritualistic. The Cineabar coating the 3 sacrificed attendants and the jade mask all hinted at religious symbolism, perhaps even deification. Some Maya myths speak of women who served as embodiments of the moon goddess, mediators of life and death. Could the Red Queen have been one of them, a living priestess who upon death became divine? Others propose a more political explanation. She might have been Lady Zakbu Ajau, whose marriage to Pakal united 2 powerful dynasties and ensured Palenque's golden age. If so, her burial beside him was not merely ceremonial, it was a continuation of royal authority, cementing their eternal partnership in the underworld. Yet the lack of inscriptions leaves every theory hovering between evidence and imagination. The Red Queen's tomb was not just visually arresting, it was physically dangerous. The cinnabar covering her remains emitted toxic mercury vapor. Archaeologists who first entered the chamber reported burning eyes, nausea, and dizziness. The substance had seeped into every crevice, forming a red haze that lingered even after ventilation. Some scholars believe this was intentional, a kind of spiritual trap, ensuring that the tomb remained untouched by the living. To the ancient Maya, cinnabar was a gateway between worlds, a substance capable of preserving the body while symbolically linking it to the life-giving blood of the gods. In this sense, the Red Queen was more than a royal corpse. She was a conduit of cosmic renewal, her red-shrouded body representing the eternal cycle of death and rebirth that defined Maya cosmology. Every detail of her burial mirrors that of King Pakal's tomb. The sarcophagus, the arrangement of offerings, even the architectural layout of Temple 30. It is as if her resting place was designed as a spiritual counterpart to his 2 souls destined to rule together beyond the grave. But if she was his queen, why was her tomb smaller, less inscribed and hidden? Some theorists argue that her burial secrecy might have been due to political turmoil after Pakal's death. Rival factions could have sought to conceal her resting place to protect it from desecration. Others suggest that her quiet burial reflected her religious transformation. She had transcended mortal rule and entered a divine state beyond the need for worldly monuments. Today, the Red Queen's remains rest in the Museo de Sitio de Palenque, carefully preserved behind glass. Her jade mask and jewelry glimmer under the museum lights, a haunting echo of her lost grandeur. And yet, for all our technology, her name remains unspoken. Her story incomplete. Archaeologists continue to search for inscriptions or tombs that might mention a queen buried in crimson. But each new discovery only adds to the riddle. Perhaps the Red Queen's identity is meant to remain hidden, a whisper from a world where the divine and the mortal intertwined, and where the power of a woman could shape kingdoms, yet fade silently into the red dust of eternity. In the end, the tomb of the Red Queen is not just an archaeological find, it is a meditation on memory and oblivion. She was powerful enough to be buried beside a god-king adorned in the finest jewels and sealed in a tomb of deadly beauty. Yet her name, the essence of her identity, was lost. The Maya believed that words gave life. Without them, even kings could be forgotten, and so the Red Queen remains suspended between history and myth, a woman of royal blood, divine essence, and eternal mystery. Her tomb continues to speak, but only in silence, in the shimmer of jade and the crimson stain of Cineabar. What if one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world never truly existed? What if the most beautiful garden ever imagined was not a place on earth, but a legend born from longing, power, and myth? The Hanging Gardens of Babylon have haunted historians for centuries, a breathtaking cascade of greenery and stone rising above the desert sands, where trees swayed in the wind hundreds of feet above the ground and rivers seemed to flow in midair. Ancient writers described a living mountain, lush terraces, shimmering waterfalls, and a masterpiece of human ingenuity said to have been built by King Nebuchadnezzar II more than 2,500 years ago. Yet despite countless excavations and centuries of searching, not a single trace of this magnificent garden has ever been found. Was it real? Or was it humanity's first vision of paradise, forever lost to time? Was the Hanging Gardens of Babylon a real masterpiece lost to time, or just a legend born from imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The first and most striking mystery of the Hanging Gardens lies in the fact that no physical evidence has ever been uncovered at Babylon, the city where it was said to exist. Excavations of the site, once the jewel of Mesopotamia and the capital of King Nebuchadnezzar II, have revealed grand temples, ziggurats, palaces, and vast fortifications, but not a single structure resembling the tiered garden described by ancient authors. This discrepancy has left historians and archaeologists puzzled for over a century. How could such a massive and complex structure simply vanish without a trace? The question has haunted generations of researchers. Some have proposed that the garden was destroyed by floods from the Euphrates River or dismantled after the city's decline. Others suggest that the entire tale was an embellishment, a legend born from travelers' stories, ancient poetry, or the misinterpretation of earlier texts. Even the earliest Greek historians, such as Strabo and Diodorus Siculus, wrote about the gardens not from direct observation, but from second-hand accounts. They described an artificial mountain of stone terraces, irrigated by ingenious mechanisms that drew water up from the Euphrates, an extraordinary technological feat for its time. But they never claimed to have seen it themselves. This lack of first-hand testimony, combined with the absence of Babylonian inscriptions mentioning the gardens, makes the case even stranger. The Babylonians were meticulous record keepers. They documented their temples, palaces, and infrastructure in great detail, and yet not a single cuneiform tablet references the construction or existence of the Hanging Gardens. For a civilization so proud of its architectural achievements, this silence is deafening. The more archaeologists searched, the clearer it became that the Hanging Gardens were not just missing, they might never have been there at all. The 19th and 20th century excavations led by German archaeologist Robert Koldewey uncovered Nebuchadnezzar's royal palace and several grand courtyards, but no traces of the multi-level terraces or advanced irrigation systems described by ancient sources. Koldewey even proposed that a mysterious vaulted building he found might have been part of the gardens, but later analysis showed it to be part of a standard palace complex. This growing uncertainty led some scholars to ask a radical question: what if the Greeks had simply gotten the location wrong? What if the Hanging Gardens were never in Babylon, but in another city altogether? Among all theories about the Hanging Gardens, none has stirred as much debate as the Nineveh hypothesis proposed by Dr. Stephanie Daly, an Assyriologist from Oxford University. According to her groundbreaking research, the legendary gardens were never in Babylon at all, but in Nineveh, the mighty capital of the Assyrian Empire, located over 300 kilometers to the north. Daly's discovery began with a re-examination of ancient cuneiform tablets that describe an extraordinary royal garden built by King Sennacherib in the 7th century BCE. These inscriptions detailed terraced landscapes, lush vegetation, and an ingenious system for raising water from the Tigris River, strikingly similar to ancient Greek descriptions of the Hanging Gardens. What makes this theory compelling is Sennacherib's pride in his engineering achievements. He referred to his water-lifting device as a wonder for all peoples, a phrase eerily reminiscent of how later civilizations would describe the Hanging Gardens. Daly argues that Greek historians may have simply confused Assyria with Babylon, two neighboring empires often intertwined in the Western imagination. Over centuries, stories of Sennacherib's spectacular gardens may have blended with the legend of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, transforming fact into fable. If Daly's interpretation is correct, then one of humanity's greatest wonders was never lost, only misremembered. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon might, in truth, have been the Hanging Gardens of Nineveh all along, a case where the passage of time blurred reality into myth, and the true paradise of the ancient world has been hiding in plain sight for over 2,000 years. Whether the Hanging Gardens stood in Babylon or Nineveh, every ancient description points to a technological achievement centuries ahead of its time. The structure was said to consist of massive stone terraces arranged like the steps of a mountain, each layer supported by powerful columns and sealed with thick sheets of lead to prevent water leakage. On these terraces grew trees, palms, and flowering plants, brought from distant lands, a living tapestry that transformed the barren desert into a suspended oasis. But the true mystery lies in its irrigation system, the heart that kept the entire structure alive. Ancient records speak of a mechanism capable of lifting tons of water from the Euphrates River up to the highest levels, something that would have required immense power and mechanical sophistication. Some scholars believe the engineers of Mesopotamia may have used a form of screw pump or chain-driven device astonishingly similar to what the Greeks would later call the Archimedes screw. If so, it would mean the Babylonians or Assyrians mastered hydraulic engineering centuries before such technology was thought to exist. The Hanging Gardens were not just a vision of beauty, they were proof that human ingenuity in the ancient world could rival the brilliance of modern science. Beyond its architecture, the Hanging Gardens represented something deeply symbolic: the human longing for paradise. Ancient Mesopotamia was a land defined by extremes, fertile river valleys surrounded by harsh desert. To create a lush mountain of green in the midst of such aridity was an act of defiance against nature itself. It symbolized power, abundance, and divine favor, the ability of a king to command not only men but the environment. Legend says King Nebuchadnezzar II built the gardens to please his wife, Queen Amytis of Media, who missed the mountains and forests of her homeland. If true, the Hanging Gardens were not just a political or technological achievement, but a monument to love and memory, a royal gift meant to recreate the lost beauty of home. The paradox of the Hanging Gardens is that their mystery endures precisely because we cannot find them. Every attempt to locate them, to pin them down to a single place or era, only deepens their allure. The gardens occupy a unique space between myth and history, tangible enough to be described in vivid detail, yet elusive enough to escape every effort of discovery. Some historians now view the Hanging Gardens not as a single physical structure, but as a composite memory, born from the convergence of multiple Mesopotamian achievements, the ziggurats of Babylon, the hydraulic works of Nineveh, the sacred groves of ancient kings. In this view, the gardens may never have existed in one place, but in the imagination of ancient storytellers, they became a symbol of the ultimate human aspiration to build paradise on earth. Though its existence has never been proven, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon continue to live on in art, literature, and the human imagination. From Renaissance paintings to modern reconstructions, the image of this forest in the sky still evokes beauty, harmony, and humanity's desire to conquer nature. Perhaps the gardens never needed to be found to be real, for their eternal value lies in the human longing to create life and beauty amid desolation and in the endless mystery that keeps us searching for the unknown. Under the vast sky of the Chelyabinsk steppe south of the Ural Mountains, where the wind still sweeps endlessly across the grasslands and silence lingers like a forgotten ancient song, lies one of modern archaeology's greatest enigmas, Archaim. Discovered by chance in 1987 during preparations to build a reservoir, Archaim immediately stunned the scientific community. Beneath the dry soil were not mere remnants of an ancient village, but a perfectly circular city, designed with an astonishing level of engineering and intellect far ahead of its 4,000-year-old age. Yet what makes Archaim one of the planet's most mysterious places is not just its architecture or astronomical alignment, but rather the question of the people who built it. Who were they? Where did they come from? And why did they vanish without a trace? What do you think really happened to the mysterious builders of Archaim? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Could they have been early Aryans, a forgotten civilization, or something even stranger? Viewed from above, Archaim unfolds like a sacred mandala carved into the earth, each line and circle drawn with astonishing mathematical precision. The entire city was built in a double ring, two concentric walls formed from clay timber and earth, reinforced by a surrounding moat that likely served both as defense and water regulation. 4 main gates opened exactly toward the cardinal directions, aligned not by chance, but by careful astronomical observation. Inside, the living quarters radiated outward, like the spokes of a sunwheel, each house connected by paved walkways and a network of underground drainage channels, a level of engineering far beyond what was thought possible for the Bronze Age. The absence of mortar or metal beams is even more striking. Every beam, brick, and post seems to interlock, naturally held together by geometry and craftsmanship. Archaeologists walking among its remains often describe a sense of deliberate perfection, as though the builders of Archaim possessed a deep understanding of balance between architecture, nature, and the cosmos. Since official excavations began in the early 1990s, scholars have linked Archaim to the Sintashta culture, a branch of the Bronze Age civilization that flourished across the Ural-Kazakhstan region. Yet Archaim differs from any other site of its era. While most Bronze Age communities were agricultural or nomadic, Archaim's inhabitants seem to possess a highly stratified social structure: residential quarters, a ceremonial center, metallurgical workshops, and evidence of complex religious rituals. They were not merely bronze smiths. They were masters of alloying and metalworking, displaying a metallurgical knowledge that other regions would not achieve for centuries. The question of who built Archaim remains one of the most compelling mysteries in Eurasian archaeology. Many Russian scholars suggest that this circular city was not merely a local settlement, but a ceremonial and political center of the Proto-Aryans, the ancestral people who later spread across Central Asia, India, and Europe. Supporting this view are astonishing parallels between Archime's cultural traces and the descriptions found in the Rig Veda, one of humanity's oldest sacred texts. The hymns of the Rig Veda portray a society skilled in chariot warfare, organized by clan and ritual, and bound by a solar faith that revered light as a divine force. Excavations at Archaim revealed primitive chariot remains with wooden frames and bronze fittings, along with cremation sites that mirror Vedic funeral traditions. The city's orientation toward the sun and its central circular layout suggest a cosmic symbolism deeply tied to ancient Indo-Iranian spirituality. For some researchers, these links are too strong to ignore. They see Archaim not as an isolated settlement, but as the birthplace of an idea that would shape civilizations. If this hypothesis holds true, Archaim is not merely an ancient Ural settlement, it could be the Uhaimat, or the original homeland of the Aryans, the birthplace from which they began their great migrations southward into Central Asia and India. If confirmed, it would upend the entire foundation of human linguistic and cultural history. It would mean that the heart of Indo-European civilization did not lie in the West, in the Caucasus or Anatolia, but here in the windswept center of modern-day Russia, where the steppe meets the winter storms. Not everyone agrees. Many Western researchers argue that the Aryan connection is a politically and spiritually charged hypothesis, as numerous Russian scholars regard Archaim as a symbol of Slavic cultural and spiritual origins. To them, Archaim is not merely archaeology, it is the Jerusalem of ancient Russia, preserving the memory of a lost golden age when humans lived in harmony with nature and the cosmos. As a result, the site has become a modern pilgrimage destination, attracting scientists, mystics, astrologers, and seekers of cosmic energy alike. Many visitors to Archaim report sensations that defy explanation, a tingling in the air, dizziness, or the feeling of crossing into another realm. Compasses lose their direction, cameras malfunction, and animals behave uneasily, as if something unseen pulses beneath the ground. These anomalies have led some researchers and mystics to propose that Archaim was built on a powerful energy node of the planet, where several ley lines, invisible currents said to carry the Earth's natural energy, intersect. Within this idea, the city's circular layout and astronomical alignment take on new meaning. Archaim was not only an observatory, but also a spiritual machine, a place designed to channel and harmonize cosmic forces. For its ancient builders, observing the sky may have been an act of communion, a ritual in which human consciousness mirrored the rhythm of the stars. At sunrise, the first light pierces through Archaim's eastern gate, passing through concentric walls to illuminate the central ceremonial space, as if the city itself were programmed to awaken with the sun. Is this mere coincidence or proof of a civilization with extraordinary astronomical understanding? The disappearance of Archaim's inhabitants remains one of its greatest enigmas. Archaeologists found no signs of battle fire or natural disaster, only silence, as if life had stopped overnight. The city shows evidence of planned abandonment, doors left open, tools set aside, and no traces of chaos or destruction. Some scholars believe its people migrated southward, driven by climate change, or the search for fertile lands, carrying with them the seeds of their language, metallurgy, and spiritual traditions. Others argue they simply fulfilled a sacred purpose and departed voluntarily. Whatever the truth, Archaim was left intact, preserved like a message from an age that quietly faded into the dust of time. Others believe Archaim was a temporary ceremonial complex, abandoned once its spiritual purpose was fulfilled. Its concentric design, both defensive and symbolic, reminds many of the circle of life concept, from the soul's center, expanding outward, then returning to its origin. Perhaps the people of Archaim perceived the universe not through numbers, but through the feeling of harmony itself. Their mystery deepens in the steppe's silence. At night, when wind passes through the ancient stone walls, Some say you can still hear faint echoes, like distant drums, as if the past never truly left. To many, Archaeum is more than an archaeological site. It is a monument to forgotten intellect, a relic from a time when humanity understood its place in the cosmos more deeply than we do today. Today, Archaeum stands preserved as an open-air museum, yet its origins and purpose remain unresolved. Science offers carbon dating and social theories, while mysticism speaks of energy lines and celestial harmony. Between these two worlds lies the shadow of a forgotten people, builders, star watchers, and dreamers who vanished without a trace. Perhaps that is why Archaeum continues to captivate us. It is not merely an ancient ruin, but a timeless question about humanity's origin. Every stone seems to whisper that when humankind once again finds balance between earth and sky, it may rediscover the wisdom long lost to time. Hidden high in the sacred valley of the Incas, not far from the ancient city of Cusco, lies one of the most intriguing and mysterious archaeological sites in all of Peru-Marais. At first glance, it appears as a set of concentric circles carved into the earth, resembling a giant amphitheater left behind by some forgotten civilization. Yet beneath its aesthetic symmetry lies a far deeper enigma, a place that may have functioned as a vast agricultural laboratory where ancient people experimented with climate, altitude, and the very limits of life itself. From above, Moray's circular depressions look almost alien, perfectly engineered rings descending into the earth, like ripples frozen in time. The largest of these pits reaches a depth of nearly 30 meters and spans over 100 meters in diameter. Each ringed terrace, meticulously constructed of stone, soil, and gravel, forms a descending staircase of agricultural zones. These aren't random terraces. They are precisely designed, forming a complex micro-ecosystem that scientists still struggle to fully understand. Do you think the Incas intentionally created the different microclimates at Moray, or was it just a natural coincidence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For centuries, the Andean people were known for their ingenuity in adapting agriculture to extreme environments. The Inca, in particular, mastered the art of cultivating crops across vast elevations, from the arid coastlines to the freezing peaks of the Andes. Yet Moray appears to have taken that mastery to an entirely different level. The Incas didn't just adapt to nature, they recreated it. Archaeologists and climatologists who have studied the site discovered something extraordinary. Each terrace has its own distinct microclimate. The temperature difference between the top and bottom levels can reach as much as 15 degrees Celsius, nearly 27 degrees Fahrenheit, a range equivalent to what one might experience between lowland valleys and high mountain slopes, separated by hundreds of miles. This means that within a single pit, the Incas could simulate the environmental conditions of an entire Andean region. One level might mimic the warm, dry valleys where maize thrived. Another might reproduce the cool, damp conditions ideal for potatoes or quinoa. It's as if they built an ancient greenhouse, not enclosed in glass, but sculpted directly into the earth, powered by sunstone and gravity. The question that has puzzled scientists for decades is, how did such a dramatic temperature variation occur within such a confined space? Part of the answer lies in the site's remarkable engineering. Each terrace was carefully layered with materials that controlled drainage and moisture-compacted soil, gravel, and porous stone. This layering not only prevented flooding, but also contributed to the regulation of heat. Warm air from the upper levels would circulate downwards, while cool air would sink and remain trapped at the bottom. The circular shape amplified this process, creating a natural convection system unlike any other known from the pre-Columbian world. But what's even more fascinating is the precision with which the Incas appear to have exploited this phenomenon. The curvature of each terrace, the angle of the slope, and the alignment with the sun's path all seem meticulously planned to harness and manipulate microclimatic conditions. In essence, Moray functioned as a climate simulator centuries before meteorology or agricultural science existed as formal disciplines. Some researchers even argue that the Incas could have used these terraces to test the resilience of crops against temperature stress, observing how different plants adapted when moved between levels. This would have allowed them to selectively breed varieties that could survive in harsher Andean environments, a crucial innovation for a civilization whose empire stretched across wildly diverse terrains. What makes Moray even more astonishing is the level of technical precision achieved without metal tools, written plans, or modern instruments. The Incas' understanding of soil behavior, thermal dynamics, and water flow seems to have been intuitive yet sophisticated. Despite heavy rainfall during the wet season, the site has never flooded, nor does it show signs of erosion. Beneath the terraces lies a hidden drainage system, layers of sand, gravel, and stone that channel water downward, ensuring perfect absorption without stagnation. This means that while the terraces could retain enough moisture for crops, excess water was seamlessly drained away. Such mastery of hydrology suggests not just empirical knowledge, but a systematic approach to experimentation, one that aligns strikingly with modern scientific thinking. To many archaeologists, this makes Moray a symbol of Inca rationality and innovation, a rare glimpse into how they blended practical science with a deep respect for nature's rhythms. Yet Moray's perfection also invites more speculative interpretations. The Incas were not only engineers, but also astronomers and spiritualists who saw cosmic order reflected in earthly design. Some researchers have proposed that the site's orientation and geometry align with solstices and celestial patterns. From this perspective, Moray could have served both as an agricultural experiment station and a sacred site dedicated to the sun god Inti, where rituals ensured the fertility of crops and harmony between humans and the cosmos. To this day, locals speak of an unusual energy that seems to emanate from the site. Some visitors claim to feel vibrations or warmth when standing at the center of the lowest terrace, a natural amplifier of sound and heat. Whether this is psychological, physical, or something deeper remains unclear, but it adds another layer of fascination to a place that already defies easy explanation. In recent decades, climatologists and agricultural scientists have conducted detailed studies at Moray. They confirmed the presence of thermal gradients, unusual wind circulation patterns, and highly variable humidity levels between the terraces. Interestingly, similar effects have been observed in experimental architecture today, particularly in terraced eco-farms that mimic natural airflow. Some researchers from the University of Cusco even recreated small-scale models of Moray to study its airflow dynamics. The results showed that the site's circular shape naturally traps heat, creating a stable microclimate that can sustain growth even when outside temperatures drop dramatically. Such findings support the theory that Moray was indeed a research station, perhaps the first agricultural laboratory in human history. Through experimentation, the Incas could have mapped how temperature, moisture, and altitude affected crop yield, effectively managing their empire's food security. Whether seen as a scientific site or a sacred one, Moray embodies the Inca worldview, a perfect balance between human ingenuity and natural harmony. Unlike modern industrial farming, which often imposes itself upon the environment, the Incas shaped their architecture to work with natural forces. Every stone curve and slope in Moray seems to breathe with the rhythm of the earth. It stands as a silent witness to a civilization that understood perhaps better than we do the intimate relationship between climate, soil, and life. The temperature variations that once puzzled archaeologists were not random anomalies, but carefully engineered miracles, proof that ancient peoples had mastered environmental design long before the modern world rediscovered it. Still, mysteries persist. Was Moray truly an agricultural testing ground, or did it serve a dual role, both scientific and ceremonial? Did the Incas intentionally design it to replicate climates? Or was that a fortunate byproduct of spiritual architecture? Could it even represent a form of knowledge inherited from earlier, now lost Andean culture? No matter the answer, Moray remains one of the world's most elegant enigmas, a fusion of architecture, science, and spirituality carved into the Peruvian earth. Standing at the edge of its circular terraces, one feels both humbled and inspired, as if gazing not just at an ancient ruin, but at the blueprint of an entire philosophy that true knowledge lies in understanding nature, not conquering it. Hidden in the heart of Cusco, beneath the later stones of the Spanish colonial world, lies a structure that defies both time and understanding, the Coricancha, or Temple of the Sun. Once the spiritual and cosmic center of the mighty Inca Empire, this sacred site was more than just a temple. It was the meeting point between heaven and earth, the place where gods and men shared the same breath and where stone itself seemed to obey a higher order of geometry and energy. Yet among all its mysteries, from its golden walls to its underground tunnels, the most enduring enigma is not its religious role, but its architecture. The Coricancha reveals a mastery of stonework so precise that modern engineers still struggle to explain how it was achieved. The Incas, without iron tools, without mortar, without the wheel, created walls that survived centuries of earthquakes, while the more recent Spanish buildings above them crumbled. This perfection of stone, quiet, exact, eternal, remains one of humanity's great unanswered questions. How do you think the Incas managed to fit those massive stones together so perfectly without mortar, yet strong enough to last for centuries? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Long before the Spanish conquistadors set their eyes on the Andean capital, Coricancha was already the radiant heart of a world defined by harmony between the natural and the divine. Chroniclers describe its walls lined with sheets of pure gold, reflecting the sunlight like fire, making the temple appear alive, pulsating with the breath of the sun god Inti, the supreme deity of the Inca. The very name Coricancha derives from Cori, gold, and cancha, enclosure or courtyard, a literal golden court. But beneath the glittering gold lay something even more remarkable: stonework beyond imitation. Each block was shaped so precisely that it fit seamlessly into the next, forming curves, corners, and angles with mathematical perfection. Unlike most ancient architecture that relied on mortar or binding agents, Coricancha's stones were interlocked like a puzzle, balancing weight and tension in a way that made them flexible and earthquake-resistant. When the Great Earthquake of 1950 struck Cusco, it was the colonial buildings of the Spaniards, built with European mortar and bricks, that cracked and fell. The Coricancha's ancient Inca walls, however, stood almost untouched. Their precision joints simply absorbed the Earth's movement. To this day, visitors can run their fingers along the seams and find no gap, no cement, no weakness, only an impossible perfection that has endured half a millennium. How did the Incas achieve such mastery? They had no iron or steel tools, only bronze and stone implements. They had no beasts of burden capable of hauling multi-ton blocks up steep mountain paths. And yet they shaped and transported stones weighing tens of tons with millimetric accuracy. Some archaeologists suggest the Incas used abrasive sand and patience, polishing each surface until two stones fitted perfectly. Others propose heat treatment, using fire to fracture the rock before sculpting it with hammerstones. But neither theory fully explains the smooth convex, joins the curving corners, and the absence of tool marks on many surfaces. There are whispers, often dismissed by orthodox scholars, that the Incas possessed lost techniques involving sound vibration, or even plant-based softening agents capable of temporarily liquefying rock. Local legends speak of priests who sang to the stones who could make them move as if they were alive. Though unverified, these tales highlight the aura of reverence surrounding Inca craftsmanship. It was not seen as labor, but as a sacred communion with nature itself. What is certain is that every stone of Coricancha was placed with cosmic intention. The walls curve gently inward, forming a trapezoidal shape, a hallmark of Inca architecture that symbolizes stability and balance. Windows and doorways align with astronomical events, the solstices, equinoxes, and the path of the sun across the sky. The temple's geometry was both structural and spiritual, mirroring the order of the heavens. Peru is a land of earthquakes. Entire cities have risen and fallen under the trembling crust of the Andes. Yet the Incas built for eternity. Their stone structures, from Machu Picchu to Sacsayhuaman and most prominently Coricancha, were designed not to resist the earth, but to dance with it. During tremors, the perfectly cut stones of Coricancha slide minutely against each other, absorbing the motion. Their trapezoidal form widens at the base, lowering the center of gravity. This flexibility, hidden within rigidity, is why the ancient walls survive, while later constructions of concrete and brick collapse. It is an irony not lost on historians that a civilization without modern instruments created the most earthquake-proof architecture known to man. Some modern engineers have even studied Coricancha's walls to improve earthquake-resistant designs, yet none can replicate the Incas' seamless fit using contemporary machinery. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, they were awed and threatened by the glory of Coricancha. They stripped its gold, melted its treasures, and in an act symbolic of conquest, built the Santo Domingo Monastery directly atop its foundations. It was both an assertion of dominance and a desecration of beauty. Yet the stones of the Inca temple refused to vanish. Centuries later, when earthquakes shook the city again, the Spanish walls cracked and crumbled, but the Inca foundations stood firm, emerging from the rubble like a ghost of divine precision. Today, visitors who walk into the site can still see the stark contrast, rough colonial masonry resting on flawless Inca stonework, a physical reminder of the endurance of indigenous genius over imperial arrogance. For the Incas, Coricancha was more than architecture. It was a mathematical symphony composed for the universe. Every chamber, every wall, every doorway was precisely aligned with the four cardinal directions and the movements of celestial bodies. The Temple of the Sun was engineered so that on the June solstice, the first rays of dawn would pass through the main doorway and strike the golden statue of Inti, flooding the entire chamber with light, like a blazing sea of fire. The adjoining rooms were not mere extensions. Each was dedicated to a natural force, the moon, Venus, thunder, and the rainbow, all carefully aligned with their positions in the heavens. The Incas believed that architecture was a living source of energy, where light, shadow, and geometry intertwined to mirror the order of the cosmos. Sunlight did more than illuminate physical space. It symbolized the bridge between the human world and the divine. When sunlight reflected off the temple's golden walls, creating a shimmering glow, the Incas believed they were witnessing the sacred union of the sun and the earth, a moment when the gods descended and the universe became one with humankind. For the Inca stone, Rumi was not an inanimate object, but a living entity with a soul capable of sensing and communicating. When they shaped it, they did not force it, but conversed with it, persuading it to align with the order of the cosmos. Every joint, every curve was not just a feat of engineering, but an expression of will and spirit infused into matter. That is why, when one stands before the stone walls of Coricancha, there is a sense of silent vitality, as if the stones themselves are still breathing, still remembering the prayers of the ancients. In the modern age, even with lasers and 3D modeling, no one has been able to replicate the flawless precision of Coricancha. The Inca technique was more than physical, it was spiritual and intuitive, born from a deep harmony with nature. Today, the temple stands as both ruin and relic, a bridge between science and faith, between stone and soul. Each curve and seamless joint speaks of a civilization that built not just with tools, but with purpose. And when the sunset turns its stones golden again, it feels as if Coricancha still breathes, reminding humanity of what perfection truly means. Carved into the face of a sheer limestone cliff, rising like the guardians of eternity over the Iranian plateau, the cliff tombs of Naqshi Rostam remain one of the most haunting and magnificent legacies of the ancient world. Located just a few kilometers northwest of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire. These monumental rock-cut tombs have stood in silence for more than 500 years. Their presence radiates both power and mystery, as if the mountain itself had been transformed into a cosmic archive, one that holds within its stone veins the memories of kings, gods, and civilizations long gone. From a distance, Naqshi Rostam appears like a wall, separating the mortal world from the divine. But as you approach, the details begin to emerge: 4 massive cruciform facades, each cut directly into the cliff high above the ground, perfectly symmetrical and impossibly precise. They are believed to be the resting places of Darius the Great Xerxes, first Artaxerxes I, and Darius II, the rulers who forged and maintained one of the greatest empires humanity has ever known. Yet despite the monumental scale and the royal inscriptions, there is an unsettling absence of explanation. No records describe how these tombs were carved, who exactly built them, or what sacred knowledge guided their construction. Who do you think truly built these colossal cliff tombs, the Achaemenid kings, or an even older civilization lost to history? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The engineering of the tombs defies imagination. Each is located roughly 20 to 25 meters above the ground, a height that would make modern construction crews pause even with cranes and scaffolding. Yet the artisans of the Achaemenid age managed to carve precise chambers, smooth walls, and detailed reliefs at this altitude, all without leaving behind the faintest trace of scaffolds or stairways. Were they cut from the top downward, the workers suspended on platforms anchored high above the cliff? Or did they carve from a ramped mound of earth that has since eroded away? These are theories often repeated by archaeologists, but none have been proven. The mountain gives no clues. Its surfaces are too clean, too intentional, too perfect, as though the stone had yielded willingly to their tools. It is this sense of controlled impossibility that makes Naqshi Rostam more than an archaeological site. It feels like an act of devotion or perhaps defiance, a human statement against mortality itself. The facades of the tombs follow a consistent pattern, each shaped like a cross, with a small rectangular entrance at its center. This cruciform design is thought to symbolize the bridge between earth and heaven, though it predates Christian iconography by centuries. Above each doorway, colossal reliefs show the king standing before Ahura Mazda, the supreme god of Zoroastrianism, while soldiers fire altars and celestial symbols fill the surrounding stone. Beneath the calm figures, hidden chambers extend inward into the mountain. Inside the royal sarcophagi, once rested, though all were looted in antiquity, their treasures and bodies long lost. Yet the emptiness of these tombs seems to amplify their aura. They are not merely graves, they are architectural prayers carved in the language of eternity. At the base of the cliff stands an enigmatic stone tower known as Kaaba Yezatosht, or the Cube of Zoroaster. It is a solid geometric structure about 12 meters tall, built from perfectly fitted limestone blocks, each so finely aligned that even a knife blade cannot slip between them. Scholars have debated its purpose for generations. Was it a fire temple, a royal archive, or perhaps a cosmic shrine meant to house sacred texts or divine flames? Inscriptions on its walls are written in 3 ancient languages, Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian, a trilingual echo of empire unity and divine order. Yet despite their presence, the texts do not reveal the true function of the tower. Instead, they deepen the mystery, hinting that this cube might have held something of profound religious or astronomical importance, perhaps even serving as a ritual key to the afterlife of the kings entombed above. Some researchers have noticed that the cliff faces and certain carvings appear aligned with solar events, particularly the rising and setting of the sun during solstices. The symbolism is unmistakable, the king's tombs bathed in sunlight at key moments of the year, perhaps representing the soul's passage toward the divine light of Ahura Mazda. If intentional, and many believe it was this, alignment would mean the builders possessed astronomical knowledge far beyond what history credits them with. The tombs may have functioned not only as burial sites, but as cosmic portals designed to guide royal souls through the heavens. And then comes the greatest question of all: who actually built these tombs? Traditional scholarship attributes them to the Achaemenid kings themselves, constructed by royal artisans under their reigns. Yet there is a profound problem: no inscriptions or records from the Achaemenid period describe their construction. The administrative archives of Persepolis, known for their meticulous detail, are silent about any project resembling Naqsh-e-Rostam. No blueprints, no royal decrees, no lists of craftsmen or resources, nothing. This absence has led some to suspect that Naqsh-e-Rostam's origins may reach back even further than the Achaemenid Empire. Perhaps the kings of Persia did not create these tombs from scratch, but inherited and repurposed an already sacred site, one whose origins were lost to prehistory. Archaeologists have observed that the rock strata and erosion patterns suggest earlier human activity long before the Achaemenids. Fragments of older carvings, now erased or reworked, hint at multiple phases of modification. Could it be that the kings of Persia merely inscribed their names upon a monument built by another older civilization? Some fringe theorists go further, proposing that Naqsh-e-Rostam could be a remnant of a Proto-Iranian culture, possibly linked to the mythic Aryan homeland described in the Avesta, or even a forgotten pre-Zoroastrian civilization that mastered the art of working stone with techniques unknown to us. The precision of the cuts, the symmetry, the geometric perfection all point to a knowledge that seems to exceed what iron tools and simple chisels could achieve. Even mainstream scholars admit that the logistics of the project remain unsolved. How were massive stone chips removed from a vertical cliff? What kind of scaffolding or lifting technology existed, and how did they achieve mirror-smooth finishes at such height without any evidence of large-scale platforms? The unanswered questions have turned Naqsh-e-Rostam into something more than a royal necropolis. It has become a symbol of human amnesia, a monument to knowledge forgotten. Its builders, whoever they were, possessed mastery over geometry, astronomy, and stone engineering that rivals even Egypt and Mesopotamia. Yet unlike the pyramids or ziggurats, these tombs hide their secrets inside the mountain, invisible to the world, until someone dares to look closer. In a poetic sense, perhaps that is the true genius of Naqsh-e-Rostam. It is a temple of mystery, built not merely to house the dead, but to outlive understanding itself. The kings carved their legacy into the bones of the earth, and in doing so, ensured that they would be remembered, not for what they said, but for what we still cannot explain. Today, the wind still sweeps across the Fars desert, brushing against the cliffs that once echoed with the sound of chisels. Thousands of years ago, Naqsh-e-Rostam still stands empty, silent, eternal. Travelers come and go, scholars debate, yet the mountain keeps the secret of its true builders. Was it the work of the Achaemenid kings, or the legacy of a civilization erased from memory? Naqsh-e-Rostam remains a stone riddle that defies time.